5 o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Donald Trump questions Kamala Harris's racial identity, and the push for AC in Texas prisons continues. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your Weather Channel forecast for this Thursday: partly cloudy, a high in the upper 90s, low in the upper 70s. Right now, we're at 78 degrees. As our Decision 2024 coverage continues, while participating in a Q&A with the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago, former President Trump raised eyebrows with his comments about Vice President Kamala Harris's ethnic background.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Speaking to a historically black sorority in Houston, Harris reacted to Trump's comments.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
Harris is Indian American and African American and attended Howard University, a historically black university. Meantime, Trump returned to the campaign trail in Pennsylvania yesterday for the first time since the attempt on his life. Here's Fox's Kristen Goodwin.
Former President Trump touting his administration's border policies.
We ended catch and release. We stopped asylum, fraud, coal. We got remain in Mexico. Remember that one?
Telling a Harrisburg crowd.
Also, drugs were way down. Human trafficking was way down. It's human trafficking in women, mostly.
Calling presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris an extreme liberal who inherited the strongest border.
Immediately turned it into the worst border nightmare in the history of the world.
Saying she wants a war on American energy and bashing her push for stricter gun control. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Well, no Democrat has won statewide office in Texas since 1994, but we've seen a lot of Kamala Harris lately. While it may not make a difference in the presidential vote in Texas, University of Houston political science professor Brandon Rottinghouse says it could impact down ballot races.
This is a kind of soft attention that can happen as a result of other things, but that may have an effect in terms of the Democrats' bottom line.
Rottinghouse says the voting picture in Texas is gradually changing with demographics, but Democrats still have a lot of work to do to gain more traction. Well, after a top Hamas political leader was assassinated in Iran, Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke on how the assassination would affect ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas during a visit to Mongolia.
It all starts with a ceasefire. And to get there, it also first requires all parties to stop taking any escalatory actions. It also requires them to find reasons to come to an agreement, not to look for reasons to delay or say no.
The assassination came just hours after Israel targeted a top Hezbollah commander in Lebanon, but Israel has not claimed responsibility for the Iran strike. Well, a federal lawsuit accuses the Texas Department of Criminal Justice of inflicting cruel and unusual punishment on inmates of state prisons with no air conditioning. Plaintiffs' attorneys want to keep temps in state prisons between 65 and 85 degrees. State lawyers said AC in the prisons would require money from the legislature. The 4-day hearing in Austin got underway Tuesday and is expected to wrap up tomorrow. Well, a civil trial is now underway in connection with the lawsuit against the parents of the accused Santa Fe high school shooter.
In opening arguments, the lead plaintiff attorney, Clint McGuire, said the parents should be held responsible for what their son did.
Donald Trump at the National Association of Black Journalists.
You should be
convention.
hearing us. Now you can, right? Is everybody hearing us?
Yeah, can you hear
me?
us?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. Thanks, Rock.
Do they hear us?
Yeah.
The Rock? Okay.
Sickapolin.
Sickapolin. Steve Duraco, the original Rock, co-founder of the San Antonio Polar Bear Club.
So since you slipped a little bit in July, you're going to take a little bit of August off also?
Yeah. What I want to do, and it's like my birthday's in August.
Yes,
so
I know. We're
reasons
going to see Def Leppard.
That's
Yes.
right.
I mean, I'm sorry, we're going to see Journey.
Journey, Def Leppard, and Steve Miller Band.
Have you ever seen Def Leppard?
I have not seen, I don't think, any of those bands ever in person. And again, I've got this friend, Steve Duraco has met him. Tim Griffin is his name in San Francisco. He's the 49er guy.
Yeah.
He loves the 49ers. I hate him for that. And B, he will never shut up about Journey. Journey's better than the Stones.
Oh,
They're
wait
better
a
than
minute.
the Beatles. I've heard
Wait
this
a
crap.
minute.
I've heard this crap from him since 1981.
Damn.
And so therefore, I have automatically hated Journey. So whenever Charity and Charlie go, nobody hates Journey. The only people who hate Journey are liars. I'm not a liar. I hate Journey because of Tim Griffin. So I tell you, he goes, oh, you're going to see Journey? I said, well, we got comp tickets.
And we're going to see Def Leppard.
So it's
Thank
like,
you.
I will see Def Leppard and Steve Miller Band. I said, I will walk out and go to the snack bar during Journey.
Here's my thing about Journey. I mean, I like them. I am not a super fan.
Yeah, they're good.
But it's karaoke Journey.
It's
karaoke.
Arnel Pineda.
Yeah, and he's good
from the
he's
Philippines,
good, but
Tim.
he's not Steve Perry.
Yeah.
And so I might leave when Journey comes on to beat traffic.
Wow. Are they the headliner? Are they live?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Probably.
But Def Leppard puts on one hell of a show, dude.
Cool.
One hell of a show.
Cool.
Which interesting. This has got to be a fake account because this guy freaked me out, man. Phil Collin is a guitarist, right? For Def Leppard, right? So I started following him. And he says, can you send me your pictures? And
yeah, that's a little weird.
For
a dude to say to a dude.
And I'm like, yeah, no. He says, this is my private account.
Okay.
My only wish is that you feel comfortable being friends with me, but I love you and respect private that I can carry around in my heart and soul everywhere, influential or not. So I'm not sure it's him or not.
I'd be very wary.
I am not sending him a picture.
No. Yeah, that's a little weird.
Very weird, man.
That's, yeah.
I was like, wait a minute here. Yeah, that was kind of bizarre because he came. Oh, look, dude.
Sweet baby Jesus.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, Tim, I saw a documentary on Arnel Pineda.
He's good.
He's amazing. It's an amazing story. He's amazingly talented. And again, I'm predisposed because of this friend of mine to not like Journey. So my default mode is to slam them.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they're fun. I saw them at the rodeo with Purnell and
Welcome into this beautiful day, Thursday, August 1st, 2024. 18 days until the Democratic National Convention. 32 days left to wear white slacks because Labor Day is in 32 days. 37 days until Taylor Swift's boyfriend opens the NFL season against the Baltimore Ravens. 40 days until the second presidential debate, we think, and 96 days until the 2024 election. What could possibly go wrong? Charity McCurdy, how are you today?
Oh, how are you today?
Oh, I'm good. Now that my mic is working. Yeah, no, wonderful. Friday Eve, by the way.
Thank you.
You got to celebrate that.
It's Red Friday Eve.
Ooh, Red Friday Eve.
We should be wearing like, I don't know, pink or something.
Maybe. It's Red Friday, Randy Beamer playlist Eve.
Yeah, great playlist tomorrow, by the way.
How do you know this?
Because I talked with Andrew, and today's the day back in 1981 MTV got started.
Ooh.
So tomorrow's going to be an MTV playlist.
Video killed the radio
It
star.
did. I loved MTV.
And for you kids who are too young, MTV used to play music videos
nonstop.
And MTV used to be cool. And MTV used to be must-see TV.
Amen.
And videos would debut like Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it was a huge event.
Yes, it was.
And the only acceptable reality TV on MTV was the remote control game show.
Amen. I love that show. I love that show.
I miss the original MTV.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You think if they got smart, they should bring it back.
Wow. What a concept.
I know.
Play music videos on television.
Wow.
And make them a big
and
deal.
call it MTV.
Yes. Music television. It's unbelievable. Let's get this party started with traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow. Highs in the upper 90s both days. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Highs 100, 101 possibly. 78 in New Braunfels, 78 in Alamo Heights, 77 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time 512.
San Antonio's first news on a Friday Eve. Thank you, Charity, for reminding us. Sounds so much better than Thursday.
It really does.
Friday Eve.
I agree.
Provide some hope.
Yes. Well, one of the things we're going to get into this morning, because we have to, because it's a big story. And oh my goodness, if you saw the video, and we'll play you some audio throughout the morning, and we're going to want to hear from you. Former President Donald Trump goes to Chicago to a gathering of the National Association of Black Journalists. And Charity, to say that he made controversial statements might be putting it lightly.
Yeah, he apparently said during this Q&A with the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago that he didn't know Vice President Kamala Harris was black and thought she was Indian all the way. Pretty much suggested that she suddenly became a black person after promoting her Indian heritage. And there was notable gasps in the crowd. A lot of people did not expect him to say that. And there was a lot of tension between Trump and ABC interviewer Rachel Scott, who had a lot of back and forth. Apparently, Trump wasn't too happy that Scott didn't come off as friendly at the start of this Q&A. But yeah, a lot of fallout, and it seems like a lot of Republicans are wanting to kind of back away from that controversial statement.
I wonder how much that happens. That Republicans want to back away from something Donald Trump has said. This one took me by surprise, and I didn't know how to react to it at first. Spent some time, digesting it. I still don't know how to react to it.
Yeah, it was very contentious, certainly, as Charity mentions, between Trump and ABC's Rachel Scott. And it was supposed to be a 1 hour sit down, about 35 minutes in. And he was going to get a question about Project 2025. And Trump's handler said, all right,
that's enough.
This is over. This conversation is over. So what we'll certainly play you some audio throughout the morning. And we want to hear from you. What effect might this have on Donald Trump's campaign? And as we know thus far, there have been things where some people have gone, oh, that's it. That's going to really hurt him. And it hasn't. So this might have zero effect on his candidacy and on the 2024 campaign. And if that's what you feel, we'd like to hear that. And we'd like to hear why.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll get into that and a whole lot more. All the big stories of the morning right here. Charlie Parker with Those Were the Days, and he'll be in studio at 8:20. Lots coming at you all morning long. WOAI News Time 5:15.
And we're back.
Rocket Man, if you haven't left yet, drive carefully. He's driving to Bryan, Texas this morning.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. Sorry, we were getting direction from our director.
Yes.
Rooster, you did not accept the friend request from Dolly Parton. Wonder why not. Aye. Fun stuff.
Woo!
Oh, tonight, football.
Oh my God.
I have this that we usually play on the first football game of the year. All right, we're back.
Okay,
Sorry, guys.
The cue is did you know?
Got it. ...
Got it. Harris Faulkner. Now, she was on that panel yesterday too, but she's
a trumper.
friendly.
She's a trumper.
Brooke Singman.
I know. I liked it better. I liked it better when we thought it was a different name.
Yes. Wow. I gotta turn this off for a second. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together. But first, did you know?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
The day has come. The dark ages have come to an end. NFL football tonight, Charity McCurdy.
Really?
Yes.
It's the Hall of Fame game.
Hall of Fame game.
I guess that counts. Yeah.
Chicago Bears.
It's football.
Randy Beamer's Chicago Bears
Yes.
versus what may be our new favorite team
It's
if we ever
looking
give up
that
on the
way.
Cowboys,
It's
and we
looking that
should,
way.
the Houston Texans.
All right.
Woo!
Yeah, the only problem is we're not going to see Caleb. We're not going to probably see CJ. So it'll be
It's football.
It's football.
NFL foot, and we're jonesing
Yes, we
for
are.
football.
Yes, we are.
Charity, what are you working on?
Well, Donald Trump clashed with journalists at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Chicago. The alleged mastermind behind the 9/11 terror attacks is avoiding the death penalty, and remembrance events conclude today for Houston Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. We'll have the latest coming up right now, traffic and weather together.
Dusty and hot today. How long will this dust stick around? We welcome in News 4 San Antonio meteorologist Jeanette Kaye. Good morning, Jeanette. Thanks, Jeanette. 77 degrees here at the Radio Ranch. WOAI News Time, 521.
San Antonio's First News, Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, Tim Merriman, Charlie Parker with Those Were the Days at 6:48. He'll be in studio at 8:20 with us later this morning. I'm Chris Duell. EJ Pacheco wearing a polo, a banana yellow polo hoodie. Usually he's wearing, San Francisco
Lakers,
49ers or
yeah.
something. So at least he's not taunting us with a team we dislike. And Andrew Zimmel flying the Millennium Falcon with him. Andrew manning our YouTube broadcast. Go to YouTube, look for 1200 WOAI. We see Kemper, Sam, Rooster, Tim from the Philippines, Tommy, Ray, Steve Duraco, the original Rock, and others already joining us. Very, very nice.
Always nice. And I'm sure they're going to weigh in on our very electrifying talkback topic today.
And we'll play you some audio, and you're hearing it throughout the news as well this morning. Former President Donald Trump goes to Chicago to meet with the National Association of Black Journalists. It gets very contentious from the get-go. Some of the things he said included Kamala Harris didn't always identify as black, that she identified as Indian initially, and she later, became black, essentially. That was disputed by ABC's Rachel Scott, who cited, she went to a traditionally black university, Howard. And there was another interesting moment, Charity, where former President Trump, they were talking about immigration and how much better he is on the immigration issue than Kamala Harris. And he said that people are coming over the border and they're taking black jobs. And he later said they're taking black and Hispanic jobs. And there seemed to be, you'll listen to the audience got a little weird reacting to that as well.
And I think a lot of people are asking the former president to define exactly what a black job is. It seems like it really went off the rails yesterday at that convention. I don't think it was good for his re-election campaign, but we've seen the former president make controversial comments before, and he's been able to bounce back.
Yeah, that's what we want to know in our talkback. Will these comments that he made at the National Association of Black Journalists hurt him in the election? And you know how to do the talkback. If you don't, it's pretty simple. Just download the iHeartRadio app if you don't already have it. If you do, search 1200 WOAI. You'll see a circle with a microphone in it. You hit it. You got 30 seconds to tell us what you think.
Yeah, and if you think, we'd love to hear your opinion on the comments. If you say, hey, no biggie, no harm, no foul, do you have a problem with the comments? And even if you do or you don't, as Charity, as you mentioned, there have been so many times dating back to the Access Hollywood interview when he first ran for president in 2016, people said, that's it. He's done. And of course, that was not the case.
Yeah. And again, it gives, VP Kamala Harris an opportunity to slam the former president. I mean, she didn't waste any time reacting to those comments. She spoke in Houston and said, that Americans deserve better. So this race is so close, especially in those battleground states. So these comments could really define the campaign moving forward. And there's just very little time left, down to 95 days.
Yeah, we will hear from you and all the big stories of the day. Charity McCurdy has them at the bottom of the hour. WOAI News Time, 525.
And we're back.
Hey, everybody.
I got to go get a pen. This one died on me.
Okay.
I'll be back.
All right, sir.
Anything on that?
I am good. I'm going to guzzle some coffee.
Lovely.
All right. NFL football tonight. Thank you, Lord. The dark ages come to an end. So I do believe now we will have football every weekend until February. I believe that's official. Kemper, you mentioned college football. What a big year with Texas moving to the SEC. That's going to be big. Texas expected to be very, very good. Some people predicting Texas versus Georgia in the SEC championship game, and perhaps beyond that in the national championship game. My beloved USC Trojans moving to the Big Ten. Kind of a big move for them, but they lose Caleb Williams to the NFL and the Chicago Bears. So it might be a little tough for them. Kemper, and I'm going to bring this up to Tim. We put Kemper would like to know where the Barry Manilow tickets are. Thank you. We have had issues. We do believe you're going to get them.
Yeah, you will.
Tim contacted on Monday or
yes,
Tuesday?
Monday.
Monday, the person who
is in charge
of those tickets.
And guess what? I've heard nothing back from her yet.
Hey, I'm shocked. So we apologize in advance and profusely that you don't have those tickets in your hand yet. What is that? August 15th, I believe. So we're 2 weeks out.
We'll hammer them again.
We'll stay on this.
It's actually 2 weeks from today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how ironic when we met Kemper.
Yes.
At that bank, that person in charge of those
was
tickets
standing right next to us.
was standing there.
Yes.
Yes. We've had
issues.
Yeah.
So that's the only nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Stephen from Lidl checking in.
Beautiful.
What joke does he have for us today?
Do we have any audio we can come back with?
Yes, we do.
Okay, cool. Cool. Need to grab my... Yeah, and Kemper, we're sorry, and we're frankly embarrassed that this is even... You should have those tickets in your hand by now.
Yeah, you should have had them a long time ago. Okay, interesting perspective from Stephen and Lidl.
And what drives us crazy in a situation like this, if somebody doesn't get their tickets...
They blame us.
They say, Tim...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Charity. Where's my... They think we're the delinquent.
Yeah, we're the ones not doing our jobs.
Which I understand because you won the tickets here.
From us. Yes.
Oh, man. I forgot my...
Oh, no.
Keyboard, so I'm going to have to... I'll do
no.
I'll do voice to text. Screw it. I hate it. I have the keyboard because I hate text. Oh, whoa. I found it.
Oh, thank God.
Woo!
It's the magic keyboard.
I hate texting with my thumb. It ain't my thing.
Yeah, first world problems, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. First world problems. They're not talking about that in Ethiopia.
They're talking about that grain of rice they had for dinner. Oh, God.
Where'd the apple come from?
Oh, I brought it for you. It's stuff left over from the summit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Figured, you're not a teacher, but,
Yeah, Mr. T brought me an apple. Can you believe it? And I'm not a teacher.
You're not.
However,
and it's a gala.
Yeah. However, I was once hot for teacher.
Oh, many
back
times.
At,
many times. And that's a gala, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You bet.
Someday that might be a talkback topic.
What's that? Teachers? Hot teachers?
Oh
my God.
Describe.
Oh my God.
We had a. I've told Mr. T this, and she's actually now a Facebook friend.
Oh.
She was recently out. So I'm a sophomore at Holmes High School. She's recently out of college.
Wow.
So she was probably about 24.
Mm-hmm.
Her name was Sandy Petrie. Sandy Petrie was a gym coach, mainly for the girls, but sometimes in a gym class, the boys and the girls would come together and be taught co-ed.
Sure.
And there was a day, my sophomore year at Holmes High School, the 24-year-old new coach, Coach Petrie, Sandy Petrie, was demonstrating the trampoline.
Oh, my God.
I'm not making that up.
My God.
And may I just say that the young boys,
and God bless America,
myself included, were riveted
God
and enjoyed that
America.
gym class that day. I'm just saying.
My first grade teacher, Miss Carr, was hot.
Yeah.
And
first grade.
You
You were hot for your first grade teacher.
I was raised around women.
My
I
God.
understood women a lot sooner than most people. And she drove, it was 1968, and she drove a 1968 Camaro.
Oh.
That's what caught my attention more than her good looks. Yes.
Yes. Quiero un camero, a song by the Los
Yeah.
Los Number 3.
You know, I was out to lunch with my wife the other day at Don Pedro's, and I had a Los Number 2 dinner.
Very nice.
Yes, I did. But yes, Miss Carr, and she lived in the apartments that were at the end of by the school. Maison Blanche Apartments, man, is where
Very
she
cool.
lived. She was sweet.
The now owner of Don Pedro, the family is Sepulveda, the
Yes,
Sepulveda family.
yes.
The matron, the parents have passed away, I do believe.
Yes, I
so
believe
the
you are
son
correct.
who now
Yes,
runs
I
it,
saw him. Yeah.
Marco.
Yeah, I saw him.
Used to live next door to my mom.
Did he really?
For like 15
I
years.
saw him because we went. I think
Nicest guy in the world.
I think it was Tuesday we went. Yeah.
Next time you go,
Okay.
ask if Marco's there, and say Chris said hi. And
I will, man, because he walked right up
he
to our
lived next door to
table.
my mom for 15 years.
He walked up to our table and asked how everything was going.
Very cool. So you got audio here.
Yes, I do. Hang on, I'm going to listen to it real quick. Apelka is in, by the way. Yep. And we're back.
Good morning, everybody.
All right, we got 3 talkbacks right now. Oh, RK. Okay.
RK is in here.
Okay, we got 3. Okay.
Now, another topic, because I'm spurred by Kemper, says Mr. T with his first grade crush, cute. Your first TV kitty crush.
Oh, kitty?
Yeah.
Marsha Brady.
Marsha Brady. Mine, Julie Newmar as Catwoman on Batman.
Catwoman was but my real crush was when I was in, I think I was in 7th or 8th grade, man. Valerie Bertinelli on One Day at a Time, man.
Nice.
I loved her.
See, and we can go charity. We can go both genders. What was charity's?
I'll wait till you
first
come back.
kitty TV crush.
See, mine was definitely Marsha Brady.
Yeah. I worked with Maureen McCormick.
Did you?
There was a fundraiser at like San Antonio Country. She was the nicest. So we were co-MCs. Nicest woman. And she was so nice.
Cindy Brady came into the station a few times when she'd be in town. And let's just say the first time kind of blew me away because she was nothing like she was on the Brady Bunch at all, man. She was actually kind of fun.
Good.
She was kind of fun. Me and Woody had her on a couple times, man, when she would come into town.
Very good.
Yeah, she would show up
It's
at the
so
radio
nice
station.
when you meet someone and they're really nice, as opposed to
jerks.
Yeah, when I was doing stand-up, there would be comics that I was like a big fan of, and then I'd meet them, and they were jerks. It was so sad.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad.
And to me, especially if you're a comic,
you got to be.
You got into this business to make people laugh.
Exactly.
That's your and in real life, you're a jerk.
Exactly.
I was not impressed by those in that category.
No.
So at 6, I'm going to go and work on my.
No problem.
Recorded a bunch of audio, and so I just need to cut them together. I got one done. I need 2 more spots.
You know who was really cool, and you probably don't know much about Queensryche. Jeff Tate, lead singer.
Okay.
At the old building when KZEP was in our building.
Yeah.
I go to get on the elevator and crashes in there. There's a guy standing next to him. I looked at him and said, "Hey, Jeff, how's it going?" "Oh, you know me?" And I said, "Not really, but I know Queensryche, and I follow you guys all the time." Very nice guy.
Cool.
Super nice guy. Right after that, he pulled a knife on his band members. They got into a fight, and he pulled a knife on his band members, and they ended up splitting up, man. And not too long after that.
Funny.
But he was cool, man.
Wow.
Name the comics. No, thank you.
The worst was, and this isn't somebody that I used to like before, but the worst comic I ever dealt with was Pauly Shore.
Oh, I can imagine.
Was an absolute jerk. And what happened was the night before he was in San Antonio, he was in Dallas.
Oh.
And he wants certain
his
water.
His rider,
he wants
yes.
certain candies and things in his. He didn't like what he was given in the green room. How can I put this nicely? He
took a dump.
Yeah, he took a crap on the floor of the green, and we had a big burly bouncer.
Oh, I remember him.
Randy Buchanan.
Yes, I remember him. Yes.
Brother of Colleen Barshaw, who was married to Bruce.
Yeah.
And Randy said, if he effing does that, I'm going to pick him up and
just-
like a dog,
and rub
I'm
his
gonna rub
nose
his
in it.
nose in it.
Yes. Yeah, I could see Pauly Shore being.
So anyway, all right, packed house, River
Yeah.
Center Comedy Club. I open for Pauly Shore. I do an opening like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Did very, very well. Crowd, because it was a juiced up crowd.
Sure.
So I welcome him to the stage. I put my hand out to welcome.
Yeah.
Doesn't shake my hand. He goes to the stage. He goes, "Wow, who was that? He wasn't funny.
What a dick.
You know, he was uncool." And Rich Miller, brother of Dennis Miller, who was in charge of the club at the time, he goes, and I want to kick his ass.
Yeah.
He said, "I've never seen a comic do that to another comic, unwarranted."
That's ridiculous.
On stage, he was a total dick.
Yeah, he is a dick, and I could see him being that way. You know?
Yeah.
Because he really didn't pay his dues.
Well, and you know something else he did? There was a comedian strike in L.A. At the Comedy Store, and his mom, Mitzi Shore, owned the. He from the roof urinated, peed on his fellow comics down below who were picketing and on strike because they weren't being paid almost anything at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a fan. Not a fan.
And I've been lucky. Pretty much everybody that's ever come into this building has been nice. You know,
good.
One of my favorite people when I worked at KZEP, man, Leon Russell came in and he spent like 3 hours with us, man. Did an hour interview with us, man. And he was so amazed that we sent a limo to go pick him up because it had been so long since somebody had sent a limo to pick him up. He was the nicest guy in the world, man.
Cool.
Super nice guy. Yeah, just fun to be around, man. That's why I'm such a big Leon Russell fan.
Yes.
Yeah, he was cool. And Robin Trower was pretty cool.
Nice.
Robin Trower came in and got us in all kinds of trouble because our general manager at KZEP was just a stick in the mud, Jay Levine. And, he came in to do an interview with us. So we got beers for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he threw empty beer bottles in the trash can. Didn't think anything about it, man. We come into work on Monday. There's memos going around, want to know who put the beer bottles in the trash can, who had beer at the station, all this crap, And so I went and told him, I said, it was Robin Trower, man. I don't care who it was. It's not allowed.
Sick of Paul
I miss him too.
Leon Russell.
I do too.
I loved Leon Russell too. The concert for Bangladesh.
Oh, he was great,
He's tremendous. And it's my favorite rockumentary ever. Joe Cocker's Mad Dogs and Englishmen, which is also a great live album.
Yes. I actually saw Leon at the Aztec Theater right before he died.
Wow.
Probably about 2 months before he died.
He did that album with
somebody broke into their bus right there next to the Aztec Theater and stole all the guitars. He had to go out and buy new guitars for his band. Yeah, he was not happy. All right, here we go.
Okay.
I got the audio. You call for it?
Yes. San Antonio's first news, Mr. T, Tim Merriman. She's Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. Charlie Parker in the next hour with Those Were the Days. Well, you heard the news at the bottom of the hour, and you're going to be hearing it all day. It was a major event yesterday with some controversy as former President Donald Trump goes to Chicago for a sit-down interview with journalists, plural, at the National Association of Black Journalists. Let's listen to a little bit of it.
Coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right. ABC's Rachel Scott pushing him on what a black job is. And Charity, you can look at it, and he was good to recover there. What is a black job? It's like anybody who has a job. But again, and these are kind of like minefields, and especially with Kamala Harris as his opponent, in all probability in this election. She's not officially the Democratic candidate yet, but she will be. He calls Marco Rubio Little Marco, Ted Cruz Lion Ted, Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. Two things he's got to watch out for Kamala Harris when he goes after her: A, gender. You might look like you're picking on a woman, and B, ethnicity. If he's not careful there, he could get some heat.
Yeah, and with this race as close as it is, any kind of misstep could derail the campaign for Trump. But I think he makes controversial statements, and then he's not able to expand on what exactly he means, especially in regards to black jobs. Because when you think about it, there really is not black jobs in the U.S. because there's not any kind of racial requirement for employment. So, I guess he was trying to make the case of, with the crisis at the border, they're coming in and taking the jobs of all Americans, regardless of racial identity. But again, it's just another controversial statement, especially at that venue of the National Association of Black Journalists convention in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm not defending him, but I think maybe the fact that he was at the National Association of Black Journalists was in his head, and that's why he said black jobs. But he should not have said that. He just said jobs, period.
And I agree with you. It was a predominantly black audience. So he was, and he later, beyond black jobs, he also said black and Hispanic jobs. But a cynic looking at what he says would say, oh, so not white jobs. So the job, and you think about what illegal immigrant jobs they're taking.
Yes.
Often they are farm workers. Yep. Often they are factory workers. Often they are lower end construction workers. So the implication, if you're looking at it from a cynical point of view, is that it's a lesser kind of a job that they're taking. So if you say black jobs or Hispanic jobs, it looks like it's a slur against those ethnicities.
And then you throw in the headline from that convention over his remarks about Kamala Harris's racial identity, saying he didn't even realize she was black until a few years ago. He thought that she was Indian. You wonder how that's going to affect the minority vote or independent voters, undecideds. It's going to be interesting to see how the polls react to this latest controversy.
Yeah, and that's what we're asking you in our Talkback feature available on the free iHeartRadio app. Do you think these comments will affect him in the election? I don't know anymore.
Yeah. Based on history, if I had to predict, I would say no, because nothing really his base is locked in.
Yes, they are.
The question, though, with these swing states, it's a very narrow spectrum of independent, perhaps undecided voters that are going to swing this election one way or another. And that's what you got to wonder about. We would love to hear your point of view. We'll play those coming up. Flashback is coming up. We're going to go back in time, try to figure out what year we land in. We want you to figure it out as well. WOAI News Time, 5:45.
And we're back.
Woo! Frankie, welcome in. I see Frankie, Tim from the Philippines.
I see dead people.
Sick of pollen.
We have 5.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's in the 5 o'clock hour.
I know that's big.
This could be red hot. We have 5 talkbacks already. By the way, it is a throwback Thursday. Hemisphere, it is for me. My Hemisphere Arena t-shirt was gifted to me by Charity McCurdy.
It was.
Now, again, pull back.
Oh, my God.
It was gifted to me by Charity McCurdy. That was pretty. I've never seen this shirt before, so
I like it.
Cool. Yeah. We spent many a time.
I grew up in that place.
In the Hemisphere Arena.
I grew up in the Convention Center Arena. Loved it.
It was so cool.
I actually had obstructed view tickets for a Spurs playoff game against Portland, where I had to sit like this. If they go down to that side to lean over.
But it was worth it. But it was worth it.
I was there.
Yep. Just get in the building.
This is true, Sikapal, and you can apologize, but it seems to be kind of his MO to just go off the cuff like that.
Yeah, and
one of
his
these days,
brand-
it's going to hurt him.
His brand
One of
is
these
not
days,
to
it
apologize.
could hurt him.
Yeah. And again, this doesn't take a rocket scientist, but I said this very early on to Tim and to Charity when it looked like it was going to be Kamala Harris. The fact that she is a woman and a black woman, just because he talks just off the cuff, he could say something that is viewed as misogynistic and they could jump on it. And he can say something that is viewed as racist and they can jump on it. And it looks like.
Well, you mentioned the Access Hollywood thing. I thought for sure
I thought that was
was going to. And my mom, Southern Baptist all the way.
I thought all the evangelicals were going to say
seemed to think
audio.
it was no big deal. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you didn't like some of the music I played because of some of the things that were talked about in the songs, but you're okay with this? I was kind of shocked.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked, to be honest with you. I mean, wow. I have a story in here that I'm so glad that my kids are not in school anymore. Back to school shopping costs an average of $586 per kid.
It's insane.
It is
wow,
insane.
we should, because she especially can sound off on
we
that.
can do it one of these, open little segments we got.
Okay.
This is something that's.
What do you want to do in place of Aaron?
I have in there. I think I have the Trump thing in there. It'd be probably the thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I have in there?
Yes. Now
Yeah.
who'll
I think that's what we should
he'll be
do.
sitting here at that point.
That's okay though.
Which
He's
actually,
not in until 8:20.
however, his comments on this might be.
Might hurt us though.
Mhm.
All right, stand by. Let's flashback, everybody.
Thank you, Kemper. I appreciate that. It is time to go back in time, but what year will we land in? You try to figure it out. We'll try to figure it out. Let's play flashback. Ding!
Boo. Oh man. Wow.
See, I jumped the gun when he said Woodstock. I
Oh, I
thought it
know.
was the original Woodstock in
No.
1969.
The revival.
See, so I'm not as sure all of the sudden. Mr. T?
I believe that was the 25th anniversary of Woodstock, so I'm
Ah.
going to go with 1994.
That makes sense. Charity, you with him?
Yeah, it's the middle one. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Yes.
Mr. T,
Yes.
you saved me because I prematurely dinged.
I hate when that
I
happens.
hate it when I prematurely ding.
You can
And
probably
I,
take a pill for
I
that.
apologize for that. Charity, what are you working on?
In an interview at the National Association of Black Journalists convention, Donald Trump said Kamala Harris was always of Indian heritage and later happened to turn black. Mayor Ron Nierenberg is expressing his support for Kamala Harris as president, and a civil trial continues in connection with the lawsuit against the parents of the accused Santa Fe high school shooter. We'll have details coming up. Right now, traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy skies today and tomorrow, highs in the upper 90s both days. Saturday, plenty of sunshine and hot. Highs forecast 100 or 101, but it will feel hotter than that. 79 degrees in Alamo Heights, 79 at the Snake Farm, 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 5:52.
San Antonio's first news, Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, Tim Merriman, Charlie on board in the next hour with those were the days. I'm Chris, EJ, and Andrew flying the Millennium Falcon, doing the heavy lifting. Andrew running our YouTube broadcast. You want to join us on YouTube, see the video, come for the chopped liver, stay for the eye candy. Go to YouTube, look for 1200 WOAI. And there's a live chat that goes on in there, which is always very lively and often creates show topics for us.
Yes, it does.
Which is very, very cool. And speaking of topics, we're already getting a bunch of them, Charity, more than we usually get in the 5 o'clock hour. Lots of people reacting to Donald Trump's appearance and the controversy at the National Association of Black Journalists. We want to know how the people feel about his comments and the reaction to his comments, and does it affect this race for the presidency? Charity, how do people get in touch with us?
The free iHeartRadio app. You download it from the App Store if you don't have it already. Once you get it, launch it, and then search 1200 WOAI. Look for a red circle. That's the talkback button. Once you hit it, it's like leaving a voicemail. You have 30 seconds to let us know if Trump's comments will derail his presidential campaign.
Let's get a teacher's perspective.
Hey guys, Stephen from Lytle. Let me put it in perspective. Let's say you go to the doctor and the doctor says, okay, you can take this medicine that smells like wet dog that was sprayed by a skunk and it rolled in its own vomit, or you can lose your left leg. I'm going to take the medicine. Trump may say or do things that at first I'm like, I don't really like that. But then I look at the alternative. I'm taking my medicine. So Trump 2024.
Wow.
What an analogy by a
great
teacher,
analogy.
Stephen and Lytle. Nice. Nice.
Rooster's checking in.
Good morning, Chris, Tim, Charity, and Kemper. Hey, it's Rooster. Ask me if I think the comments that President Trump made last night are going to affect him. As Joe Biden would say, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. All right, guys. Y'all have a great one. Talk to y'all later. Rooster.
We love Rooster. And you got to appreciate the shout out to Kemper.
Yeah.
Another regular participant.
Mm-hmm.
And Kemper and Rooster are in the live chat right
Katie,
now.
you just said hi to her in there. I
on
mean, come on.
YouTube. Now, bonus points, Rooster, if you would have ended it with, I love you, Charity.
Yes.
Oh,
as
no.
some people do.
Not
Yes.
necessary.
Yeah, it's always bonus points for that.
Appreciated, but not necessary.
Well, let's go see what kind of critters RK is hanging out with.
RK here. Future President Trump, he's the only one with the gonads to call out the lefty liars that live in the swamp that he's trying to clear out. Who else is going to do it? It ain't going to be the little wimpy Republican rhinos. Everybody have a beautiful swampless day. Bye.
The morning would not be complete without RK.
It really would not.
We love RK.
All right, we got time for another one. Here we go.
Good morning. It appears to me that seems to be the problem, that they take something either candidate will say and just turn it around, twist it, amplify it, whatever you want to call it. She made a video of a cooking show with Mindy Kaling from The Office. And in that video, she clearly stated that she is Indian. Didn't mention anything about being black. Have a good
Have a
All
good
right.
day.
There you go.
And Harris is Indian American and African American.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Dad is Jamaican, so she can claim ganja as a food group.
I like
I'm
that.
guessing.
I like that.
Just
All
a
right,
guess
let's check
on
in
that.
with Travis.
Morning, y'all. This is Travis from San Antonio. I believe that Trump is navigating a minefield. From day one, he's been under attack saying he's racist from all angles. I think that being there and everything that's been going on, I think he got in his head. And I don't think he meant to say things that were controversial, but
but he did.
And I agree with Travis. He is navigating a minefield because you now, with your opponent being Kamala Harris, everything you say is going to be scrutinized under two lenses. One, misogyny. Are you saying something anti-woman? And because of her ethnicity, the racist charge is going to happen now and then. And certainly there's some people citing racism after yesterday.
Oh, and what do you think is the most controversial part of his statement? Was it the fact that he said that he didn't know she was black, or that he suggested that she became a black person?
Ooh.
It just sounds odd.
It does sound odd. Yeah.
Because she went to a historically black university, and because there's a lot of documentation of her identifying as black and Indian early on. I think it's that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that one. But, and again, it's the hardcore Trump people are unmoved absolutely by anything he said. It's these people in the middle who are going to decide this election in swing states that you got to pay attention to, and you got to see if it affects them. More on this coming up. Charity with everything you need to know right here at the top of the hour. WOAI News Time 558.
Guys, enjoy Charity. I'm going to go for a walk real quick.
Six o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Donald Trump questions Kamala Harris's racial identity, and the push for AC in Texas prisons continues. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your Weather Channel forecast for this Thursday: partly cloudy, a high in the upper 90s. Tonight's low near 77. Right now, we're at 78 degrees. While participating in a Q&A with the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago, former President Trump raised eyebrows with his comments about Vice President Kamala Harris's ethnic background.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black. until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Speaking to a historically black sorority in Houston, Harris reacts to the comments.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
Harris is Indian American and African American and attended Howard University, a historically black university. Meantime, Trump returned to the campaign trail in Pennsylvania yesterday for the first time since the attempt on his life. Here's Fox's Kristen Goodwin.
Former President Trump touting his administration's border policies.
We ended catch and release. We stopped asylum, fraud, coal. We got remain in Mexico. Remember that one?
Telling a Harrisburg crowd.
Also, drugs were way down. Human trafficking was way down. It's human trafficking in women mostly.
Calling presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris an extreme liberal who inherited the strongest border.
Immediately turned it into the worst border nightmare in the history of the world.
Saying she wants a war on American energy and bashing her push for stricter gun control. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Well, no Democrat has won statewide office in Texas since 1994, but we've seen a lot of Kamala Harris lately. While it may not make a difference in the presidential vote in Texas, University of Houston political science professor Brandon Rottinghouse says it could impact down ballot races.
The kind of soft attention that can happen as a result of other things, but that may have an effect in terms of the Democrats' bottom line.
Rottinghouse says the voting picture in Texas is gradually changing with demographics, but Democrats still have a lot of work to do to gain more traction. Well, after a top Hamas political leader was assassinated in Iran, Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke on how the assassination would affect the ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas during a visit to Mongolia.
It all starts with a ceasefire. And to get there, it also first requires all parties to stop taking any escalatory actions. It also requires them to find reasons to come to an agreement, not to look for reasons to delay or say no.
The assassination came just hours after Israel targeted a top Hezbollah commander in Lebanon, but Israel has not claimed responsibility for the Iran strike. The Texas Department of Corrections is in federal court over a lack of air conditioning in state prisons.
A federal lawsuit first brought against Texas by former mortician and convicted murderer Bernie Tiede, the subject of the Richard Linklater film Bernie, alleges that TDC is inflicting cruel and unusual punishment on inmates with little or no air conditioning as temps reach 125 in some units. Plaintiffs want Judge Robert Pittman to order TDCJ to keep prison temps between 65 and 85, as is required for county jails in Texas. Testimony began on Tuesday, with the trial expected to wrap up tomorrow. Eric Lankum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
3 people are in the hospital following a 2-vehicle rollover crash last night on the city's north side. Police say it happened around 7:30 p.m. on Madison Drive at Stono Parkway. 2 people were reportedly ejected from one of the vehicles during the crash. 2 adults and a child around 2 years of age were hospitalized. Their condition is unknown. Police are still investigating. Well, a civil trial is now underway in connection with the lawsuit against the parents of the accused Santa Fe High School shooter.
In opening arguments, the lead plaintiff attorney, Clint McGuire, said the parents should be held responsible for what their son did.
Parents of a depressed child should safely store their guns. If they don't, and their child commits a school shooting with them, the parents share in the responsibility for those harms and losses.
The shooter was found incompetent to stand trial for the 2018 shooting that killed 8 students and 2 teachers. Now relatives of the victims are suing his parents, claiming they knew their son had problems and didn't do enough to prevent the shooting. Brian Gann, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
It is 6:06, news at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's first news, Mr. T, Tim Merriman, Charity McCurdy, Charlie Parker with Those Were the Days at 6:48. He'll also join us in studio later this morning at 8:20. I'm Chris Duell, EJ Pacheco and Andrew Zimmel flying the Millennium Falcon. It is the story of the morning. It happened yesterday in Chicago. Former President Donald Trump sitting down with the National Association of Black Journalists, and things got contentious, and there is now controversy. And my goodness, we're getting so many talkbacks from you, so much reaction from you, and we will get to them coming up as well. But first, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow. Highs in the upper 90s both days. It's going to feel a little hotter than that. And of course, there's still some Saharan dust today. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Forecast highs 100, 101. And yes, it will feel hotter than that. 79 degrees at the Pearl, 78 in Floresville, and 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 6:11.
San Antonio's first news coming up at 6:40 in less than a half hour. White House correspondent and attorney John Decker, what the next week will hold for Vice President Kamala Harris, as by Tuesday we're expected to know her choice for running mate, and then it's a tour, a bunch of campaign stops in swing states. He'll walk us through that schedule of events that we know about. But today, all of the reaction and all of the oxygen seems to be coming from Chicago and former President Donald Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black? I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
That was one of the big moments there when former President Donald Trump suggested that Kamala Harris turned black after predominantly identifying as Indian as far as her ethnicity. ABC's Rachel Scott, of the three journalists, one was Harris Faulkner of Fox. She was sitting, Charity, furthest away from the three black journalists, and they were all female on that stage with the former president. But the one closest to him, as you've mentioned, ABC's Rachel Scott, seemed to take him on more than the other two.
Yeah, and she immediately noted to Trump that, Kamala Harris attended Howard University, a historically black college, questioning why Trump thought that she was not black, that she was primarily Indian. But you could tell it was just an uncomfortable situation all the way around, even for former President Trump. And I think it just got off to a bad start to begin with, because there were some technical issues, and I think the convention was delayed by at least a half an hour. And then Trump took issue with the fact that Rachel Scott was kind of curt with him, I guess, or he didn't like her tone. So just from the get-go, we kind of knew that things weren't going to go well.
Whoever lined Donald Trump up to go to this National Association of Black Journalists should have warned him, you don't want to talk like that anytime, but especially when you're in front of a National Association of Black Journalists. This is not going to turn out well for you.
Yeah, but he's a very smart man. He's got very savvy political instincts that usually work out for him. And as Donald Trump mentioned yesterday, he was under the impression, I think it was the case, that he and Kamala Harris were invited to this event. He was mentioning, I'm the only one who showed up. I think Kamala Harris did a Zoom appearance with the National Association of Black Journalists. So can you imagine, Charity, and I don't know if they'd have both been sitting there for the same panel, but if Kamala Harris had been there, on that same stage with Donald Trump, my God, the fireworks would have been more incendiary,
Wow.
I imagine.
Most definitely. And, she didn't hold back when talking about, her reaction to former President Trump's comments. She was speaking in Houston yesterday to a black sorority, and she sounded off. Here it is.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
And, that's the thing about former President Trump's supporters. That's one of the things I think they love about him is the fact that he has no filter. And whether he ends up stepping in it or not, you're going to get honesty, whether it's wrong or not, from the former president. And that's why I think a lot of his supporters stay faithful.
We are getting incredible reaction from you on the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. We're going to hear your reaction coming up. Don't forget White House correspondent John Decker, the latest involving the running mate. Who will it be? He's got the inside track on that. He's got his own predictions as well. We'll get into those also. WOAI News Time, 6:15.
And we're back.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, it's right here. They know where we are.
Now, he called it the clicker. Remote controls used to be clickers. Remember the original?
I used to be my dad's
It was
clicker.
one button.
Yeah, I
though.
know.
It was one button that would take you around the horn and go click,
And I
click,
used to be my dad's
click.
clicker. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me? Hey, son, get up and change the channel. Yes, Dad. Remember that?
Yes, indeed.
Remember when we had Paragon cable?
Oh, that was like,
And they
oh
had-
my God.
And they had that
36 channels.
and you had to,
Yeah.
you had to go.
Yeah.
My dad,
Yeah.
and finally, my brother-in-law was not my brother-in-law at the time. He was dating my sister. Extended the wire from the TV so my dad could set it right next to him. Thank God.
Wow.
Because I would have been changing channels for him for the rest of my life, most likely.
And of course, how many of you remember Paragon cable?
98.
Wasn't it 99?
98 and 99.
98 and 99. Oh,
I mean,
and
I saw a nipple.
and just the audio.
Yeah.
Full audio of porn.
Yeah.
And for that to come into any home,
it was great.
Where any 7-year-old, 10-year-old kid could access it.
It was great.
I'm amazed there weren't lawsuits against Paragon. As litigious as we are now.
Yes.
I think because that went into everybody's home.
God, yes,
it was
did.
easily accessible.
Yes, it did.
So
good morning, Kay.
Welcome in, Kay.
Yeah, I remember that, man.
Wow.
Many a late nights.
When you were looking for entertainment.
Yes, sir. Is that what we were looking for, Chris? Come on.
Entertainment.
I saw a nipple.
Adult entertainment.
That's a good question. I have not talked to our boss about that yet, Rooster, but I imagine it will be coming soon. Probably right towards the end of preseason.
Yeah, probably once they play, which is very shortly.
Yeah.
Next week,
Next
I
week,
imagine.
yeah.
So, yeah. So I imagine you have so many talkbacks that it's not even an issue. With,
Oh, no.
We'll get to 25 before.
No. We'll get
and we need to be on time for Decker, right?
Wait. How long is your Ewald?
It's a 30.
Right, but
Yeah.
is it a 30?
It goes about 42.
Okay,
I think.
so 25 works.
Okay, let me write that. So that
25 works.
put that in her head that we need to be out on time for Decker at 25.
But Rooster, we're thinking maybe we should switch to the Texans report.
I am seriously considering. I've been a Cowboys fan since the 60s.
Because they're not doing anything.
I'm so disgusted by Jerry Jones. I'm thinking about switching allegiance, which is blasphemy.
It is blasphemy, but I'm with you, Chris.
What they drove me to.
And just get ready for this, Rooster. It is the Hall of Fame game tonight, so that means that Jerry's got to make a big announcement about extending Dak's contract today so he can take all the excitement away from the Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears. Just saying. And we're back. Just going to throw it to her.
Yes.
We're going to start with a grumpy old fart.
Okay.
The talk back, grumpy old
Don't
fart.
say their names.
I didn't say Charlie.
Yeah, Rooster, I am done with Dak, man.
Me too. If they extend his contract, that's the
No.
biggest mistake they can make. They need to let him play out this contract. You go to the Super Bowl and win, I'll give you an extension.
Yeah.
Until that happens, no.
And
Go, just go away.
The way to win is get a really good quarterback on a rookie contract so you
And
can
ride
put
him out,
pieces around
man.
him.
Amen. And demanding that he be the highest paid quarterback is not going to
You
do any
not
good for the
deserve
team.
Mahomes money.
And it's not going to be any good for the team. That's the part that bothers me.
Let him walk.
Talk to Tim Duncan. Talk to David
Yeah,
Robinson. Stand
exactly.
by.
Talk to Tom Brady. We are getting reaction from you on former President Donald Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists. Coming right at you. But first, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
Well, Vice President Kamala Harris says Americans deserve better after Donald Trump raised doubts about her racial identity. 3 suspects accused of being the masterminds behind the 9/11 attacks have struck a plea deal with prosecutors. And host nation France has closed the gap in the medal count standings at the Paris Olympics. We'll have more coming up. Right now, traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow. Highs in the upper 90s both days. Going to feel a little hotter than that. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Forecast highs 100, 101, but it will feel hotter. 78 degrees in Livonia, 79 at Randolph Air Force Base, and 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 623.
San Antonio's first news, and man, oh man, are we getting a lot of reaction to former President Donald Trump's appearance yesterday in Chicago at the National Association of Black Journalists. You know how to do it. Go to the free iHeartRadio app. Look for that talkback feature. It's a microphone button. You got 30 seconds to talk to us. Mr. T, what do you got?
We got a bunch. Let's start with this one.
Good morning. Grumpy old fart here. Trump's mouth is going to cost him the election. It's the one thing I hate about him. Race, creed, and color should never come out of his mouth. Spend his time pounding on the good things that happened during his presidency, pound on the terrible things that are happening during the current regime, and just go from there. Just hope his mouth doesn't screw him up. Thank you.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a very good point.
Grumpy old fart, by the way, joins us frequently in the chat on YouTube.
Just on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Oh,
Well,
wait,
no,
you're
no.
talking. Okay.
The guy on
My
YouTube.
bad.
Yeah.
That guy.
My bad. All right, let's check in with Kemper.
Good morning on this Friday Eve. This is Kemper. Just wanted to say that I don't think statements made by Kamala or Trump will make any significant difference in the way people vote. People have made up their minds and will make any type of excuse for their candidate. But hey, it's August 1st, and you know what that means. College football is just right around the corner. Now that's something I can get behind.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to football.
I like that.
The distraction we
Yes.
all need. Yeah.
All right, we've got a lot more coming, and some of these are just unbelievably passionate on both sides of the equation.
Now, real quick, Kemper had a good point, but there are people that have not made up their mind, and we think that those might be the ones that decide the election.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think you got 40-something hardcore Trump, 40-something going to vote Democrat, and right in the middle,
you got those people that are undecided.
and they're going to determine the election. I totally agree with that. Coming up, White House correspondent John Decker on Decision 2024, WOAI News Time 625.
All right, enjoy, Charity. We'll be back.
6:30 is our time. San Antonio's First News. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Kamala Harris responds to Trump's comments about her racial identity and a plea deal for the 9/11 masterminds. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your Weather Channel forecast for this Thursday, partly cloudy, a high in the upper 90s. Tonight's low in the upper 70s. Right now, 78 degrees. Well, former President Trump appeared before the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday in Chicago, which turned remarkably contentious. Fox's Brian Yennes has more on Decision 2024.
Former President Trump under fire for suggesting Vice President Kamala Harris only started identifying as black recently for political gain. Trump was then asked if he believed Harris was a DEI or diversity hire.
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty.
The comments coming during a contentious interview with black journalists at the National Association of Black Journalists convention in Chicago. The sparring started right out of the gate at the first question. Trump put on the defensive.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln.
The former president seemingly irritated, noting his opponent Harris did not show up to the convention.
And here's Harris's reaction while speaking in Houston.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
Here's White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
Only she can speak to her experience. Only she can speak to what it's like. She's the only person that can do that. And I think it's insulting for anybody. It doesn't matter if it's a former leader, a former president. It is insulting.
Harris is the nation's first black, first South Asian, and first female vice president. Meantime, Kamala Harris wraps up her 2-day trip to Houston, delivering the eulogy for Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Among Lee's legislative accomplishments, the Juneteenth national holiday and renewal of the Violence Against Women Act.
In a statement, Vice President Harris referred to Representative Sheila Jackson Lee as a tenacious advocate for justice. Today's celebration of life wraps up over a week of memorials, including bipartisan love from her colleagues in Congress.
She was a champion of so many issues, from criminal justice to voting rights to civil rights.
Obsessed with taking care of people and changing the world.
Never has our committee had a harder working, more dedicated member. May God rest her soul.
The Congresswoman died serving her 14th term in office. She had pancreatic cancer. In Austin, Chris Fox, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
The White House says it's too soon to say what the attacks in Lebanon and Iran could mean for a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby refused to confirm reports that Israel killed a political leader of Hamas in Iran. Kirby told reporters the Biden administration will continue efforts to secure a ceasefire deal that includes the release of hostages held by Hamas. Well, 3 suspects accused of being the masterminds behind the 9/11 attacks have reportedly struck a plea deal with prosecutors. Fox's Chanley Painter reports.
The Department of Defense has reached such agreements with 3 of the 5 9/11 terrorist suspects, which means the alleged mastermind and 2 of his accomplices responsible for murdering nearly 3,000 people in the worst terror attack on U.S. soil will now escape the death penalty. In a letter to the victims' families obtained by the New York Post, prosecutors explain, in exchange for the removal of the death penalty as a possible punishment, these 3 accused have agreed to plead guilty to all the charged offenses, including the murder of the 22,976 people listed in the charge sheet.
House Speaker Mike Johnson called the plea deal a slap in the face to those who died in the attacks. Well, earlier this week, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced a $1.4 billion settlement with Meta, the parent company of Facebook. Technology expert Ian Scher says the settlement was tied to a state lawsuit over how the company has been handling the private information of users.
The federal government hasn't done much about privacy concerns online. And so states are beginning to step up, using laws that were written around voice or facial or biometric data to force tech companies to change how they treat our information.
Scher says the settlement, which was the largest ever for a single state, may sound big, but it's relatively small for a company like Meta. He says he wonders if Texas might have been able to get more. Well, the mistress of Texas Christian radio host The Money Doctor was sentenced to life in prison for her role in a Ponzi scheme that saw the two steal $31 million from nearly 200 retirees over the course of 10 years. The Tarrant County DA said 65-year-old Deborah May Carter bilked senior citizens out of millions of dollars alongside Ponzi schemer William Neal Doc Gallagher. Prosecutors named Carter the mastermind behind the operation. Gallagher was sentenced to 3 life sentences plus 30 years in prison in 2021. Well, it's not your imagination. Texas is getting more crowded. Michael Board has more.
It seems like every week there's a new report showing that people from across the country are picking up and moving to Texas. Glenn Hammer, who heads the Texas Association of Business, says the numbers are mind-boggling.
From the time we started today to when we go to sleep, 1,000 new residents plus will call Texas their home.
A new report shows that over the last 3 years, 9 of the top 10 places for growth were here in Texas. At the top was the Dallas suburb of Salina. Its population grew by more than 143%. Hammer says to keep this trend, the state must invest in infrastructure. Michael Board, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
It is 6:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute, but first, a check of your money and the world of business. Ed Corey is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's first news. Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, Tim Merriman, Charlie Parker. Let's see, just about 8 minutes away from those were the days. Charlie will also join us at 8:20 this morning. We'll have him in studio. That's always entertaining and enlightening. EJ Pacheco and Andrew Zimmel flying the Millennium Falcon, and Andrew directing our online video on YouTube. Just look for 1200 WOAI on YouTube. Well, this election is getting closer. The Democratic National Convention is getting closer. And when we know Kamala Harris's running mate is just days away, let's talk about it with White House correspondent John Decker. John, as of yesterday, you said if you were going to bet $100, you'd bet on Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. Has anything changed your mind in the last 24 hours?
Well, maybe. I say maybe because we now know where the first joint appearance by Kamala Harris and her running mate will be. It will be at a campaign rally, and it will be in Philadelphia. And who is the governor of Pennsylvania? It's Josh Shapiro. So maybe, just maybe, she may be looking at the governor of Pennsylvania, who's won several statewide elections in Pennsylvania. And as you know, Pennsylvania, critical battleground state for the November election. But look, as part of their tour that they will do together, both Kamala Harris and her future running mate, they'll also be making a stop in Phoenix, Arizona. And who represents the state of Arizona? That's Senator Mark Kelly. So I think it may indeed be down to these two individuals who can potentially bring a state into the Democrats' column in November. But we'll know soon enough. And the betting continues. And maybe there's some betting out there. I said, if you could bet in Las Vegas. Fortunately, there's no betting allowed on this particular issue in Vegas, or I'd maybe potentially losing some money. But in any case, I'm following it very closely, just like you guys are.
And John, once Harris makes the announcement, what kind of role will her running mate play in the campaign moving forward?
Well, typically the running mate, I say typically, historically, the running mate often is an attack dog, and that is the role that allows the primary candidate, the presidential election candidate, to remain above the fray. I say that's historic. I don't think we saw that much in the last few election cycles with Donald Trump at the top of the ticket. He is pretty comfortable being the attack dog on behalf of the ticket. But that is a role, not the primary role, but that is a role that a running mate brings to the table. And of course, whoever is chosen must establish to the American public, the electorate, that they are someone who could take over the duties of president right away, that they meet that threshold. And that is also a factor that Kamala Harris will have to consider as she names her running mate.
All right, so we're 96 days away from the election. We've got her going to Philadelphia and then into Arizona. Where else are they going, John?
They're going to key battleground states. So they'll be in Detroit, Michigan. They'll be in western Wisconsin. Those are two important states for both political parties. They'll also be heading down south to Savannah, Georgia, and Raleigh, North Carolina, and then out west to those Sunbelt states. They'll be in Phoenix, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's sending a clear message. The Democrats are that these are the states that they intend to compete in between now and November the 5th.
And John, on the other side of the aisle, we just have to get your thoughts because our listeners are really sounding off about it this morning. Former President Donald Trump's appearance yesterday at the National Association of Black Journalists conference, he made a number of comments that are certainly viewed by some as controversial. Do you think he did anything yesterday to damage his campaign?
I don't think he helped his campaign yesterday. And here's the reason I say that. I look at poll after poll, particularly when Joe Biden was in the race. And you saw that Donald Trump was doing surprisingly well in poll after poll with black voters, not getting a majority, but getting a significant percentage. Yesterday's event at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Chicago did not help matters, especially with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. And you have to be concerned, if you're the Trump campaign, about record high potential black turnout in places like Philadelphia and Detroit, Michigan, and in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and in Atlanta, Georgia, because these states will determine who wins in November. And again, getting back to what happened yesterday in Chicago, I don't think that Donald Trump helped himself with that key demographic group that will play a very important role in the November election.
He's the best in the business. White House correspondent, attorney, member of the Supreme Court Bar, John Decker. Coming up, Charlie Parker with Those Were the Days, WOAI News Time, 6:45.
And we're back. Woo! All right, talkback's at 50 for sure.
Yeah, okay.
For sure. For sure.
Anybody joining us, anybody new to the video stream, welcome in. If we see your name in the chat, like
We
Rooster,
will say hello.
Tim Sikapolin, Kay, Jacob C. Hernandez.
Have a good one, Rooster. Talk to you tomorrow, brother.
Adios, Rooster. Rooster in the morning says a cock-a-doodle-doo. Just saying. I cite the lyrics of Los Number 3 Dinners.
And you should.
As we should. Some people quote Socrates, Aristotle.
See, and I go back to when they were the Los Number 2 Dinners.
Yes.
See.
And for a brief moment, the blue praline.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know
Yeah.
that. Very briefly. But yeah, we still have 45s they
Oh
used
my
to sell
God.
as Los Number 2 Dinners.
Yes.
And I put those on cassette.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was going to USC,
Sure,
and I'd
sure.
play them back at my dorm, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. And so people would listen and go, God, that's a great band.
No, Tim, they have not. Not
and,
yet.
and people would say to me, like, yeah, I'm going to go to San Antonio. They'd never been. I'm going to see the Alamo, the Riverwalk. I'm going to see Los Number 2 Dinners.
They're fun, man.
They are great. The pride of Jefferson High School.
There you go. Remember the Dead Crickets?
I vaguely remember the Dead Crickets.
The guy that was the big, I can't remember his name, but he was a photographer for the
The
Express,
Express News.
Yeah, and then they had to change to.
Yeah, what was his name?
Oh, gosh. I can see his face.
Yeah.
You know, glasses.
Yes,
Yeah,
he was a big deal with the Express News.
Then they had to change their name because they got sued by the Buddy Holly estate and they became 2 Tons of Steel.
That's right.
Yeah. It's like, man, come on. Seriously?
Yeah.
They were good too, man. I like them.
Which is a great name for a band as well. 2 Tons of Steel.
I know, I like
Kevin Guile.
There you go.
It's amazing. I put lead
Yeah.
singer 2 Tons of Steel and Kevin Guile came up.
He was a good guy, man. I liked
Yeah.
him. He used to come out to all our KZAT party on the patios.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a good guy, man.
Wonder whatever happened to him.
Don't know.
Haven't heard that name.
No, in a long time.
20
But I can
years.
see his face.
Yeah.
You know, big time.
Wow, they're in Wikipedia.
Are they really?
2 Tons of Steel.
I'll be damned.
San Antonio, Texas, rockabilly.
Yep, they were
Country,
rockabilly, stand-up
alternative
bass.
country, Americana.
Stand-up bass. I remember
Years
that.
active, 1990 to present.
Oh, so they're still going.
So it says.
Wow. Are they
according
still,
to Wikipedia.
Does it say who the present members are?
Lead Kevin Guile.
Okay, so he's still
Eric
with them.
Vasquez.
We need to hunt him down and go check him out.
God, yes. JD Larish on bass. Stephen James, lead guitar, background vocals. Eric Vasquez is drums.
Cool. I'd like to go check him out.
There's a
They're always
website,
fun,
2
man.
Tons. Let me see if it's still active. It is active.
Do you have any dates on
Let
them?
me click on tour. There's a Green Hall show that they. My God, they're in Port Aransas, August 3rd at the Palm Social Club.
Oh, cool.
New Braunfels, August 6th.
Where at in New Braunfels?
28th annual 2 Ton Tuesdays. That's
It's a
all it says.
Tuesday. Crap.
Let me see. Austin at the White Horse, August 16th. Junction, August 17th.
Damn, they're still out there,
Fort
man.
Worth, August 25th. Port A, August 31st at the Palm Social Club.
Which is a cool place, by the way. If you've never been there,
House, I've never been.
It's cool.
House, New Mexico, September 7th.
Damn.
Wimberley, September 19th. San Antonio, September 21st. Music in the Park.
Ooh.
Is that a weekend?
I'm gonna look it up right
Sounds
now.
like it.
I'm in
That-
frickin' Houston that day. It's a
Damn.
Saturday.
Music in the Park.
It's a Saturday. I've got
Port
a,
Aransas Live Music Festival, September 28th.
I've got a double 80th birthday party to go to in Houston on that day.
They're in Houston 6 days later on September 27th.
Damn it.
At McGonagall's Mucky Duck.
Now, I will be at the Cadillac Bar in Houston on the 21st for
My
a
goodness.
double 80th birthday party. Cindy's aunt and uncle both turned 80.
Wow.
And so they're doing a big birthday party. So we're going to Houston. I know.
Tons of steel.
If I'm there, I'm going to yell in the crowd, play some Dead Cricket.
There you go. That'll prove you're a super fan.
Oh, good. He was fun, man. I always liked him. Had a good time with him. And I like a good stand-up bass. Always sounds good, man. Jonathan, good morning.
Welcome in, Jonathan.
No.
Look at her last name.
I know.
Magana Bosco.
Wow.
Magana Bosco.
Wow. Backpack safety. We never had backpacks when I was in school.
No. Yeah, we carried, and that was like
Yes.
a badge of honor. I'm
Yes.
carrying all these books.
Actually, I got smart when I was in 10th grade. I knew a girl because I grew up in the same place from first grade on. I knew a girl that worked in the book room.
Mhm.
And so on the first day of school, I got double books. One set would stay in my locker at school and one went home with me.
Pretty smart.
And that way, it never looked like I ever took a book home because I didn't have to. I had all my books at home. The only stipulation was I had to bring them back at the end of the year. And I said, no problem. I can bring them back. No problem.
I had Googled best top 8 videos of all time, according to 1057 WFOR.
What do they say?
I'm scrolling. Taking for number 8, single ladies put a ring on it. Beyonce 2008.
No way. Come on. No.
Number 7, nothing compares to you, Sinead
No.
O'Connor. No. Number 6, hungry like the wolf.
Oh, I like
Duran.
Duran had great
82.
videos. Had great videos because of all the hot chicks.
Number 5, Take on Me.
That was a good one.
1985. Number 4, Sabotage. Beastie Boys. 94. Meh. Number 3, Thriller. Michael Jackson.
Yes.
82.
Yes.
Number 2, Vogue. Madonna. 1990.
I hated that video.
And number 1, I like it. Sledgehammer. Peter Gabriel. 1986.
Fantastic
I
video.
liked it.
Fantastic video. We need to talk a little MTV in some segment because today's the day, 1981.
Is Charlie well versed in MTV or is it?
He hated it, but yeah.
I hated it.
He did. It made no sense to me. I loved it, man. I mean, you're talking about, I was, senior in high school. No, I was out of school because it was summertime. And I moved out, and in our apartment, man, it would be on 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
It would just be in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
My goodness gracious.
I know.
Trans boxer makes female opponent quit. 40 seconds. 40.
See,
Now, again,
that's not right, dude.
that's a dude.
Yeah, that's not right.
Especially boxing.
I know.
Something as physical
So
as
you like to beat women, huh?
beating the crap out of somebody.
You like to beat women, huh? All right, here comes Charity McCurdy with her headlines, and then we'll do traffic and weather, and then back to you.
Here's some of the stories we're following. Donald Trump questions VP Kamala Harris's racial identity. Kamala Harris, meantime, will begin a U.S. tour with her new running mate next week. And police are on the hunt for a gunman wanted in connection with a shooting at a North Side apartment complex overnight. We'll have details coming up. Right now, traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow. Highs in the upper 90s both days, but it will feel hotter. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Forecast high is 100, 101, but it will feel hotter than that. 79 degrees in Alamo Heights, 79 in Leon Valley, 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time 6:55.
San Antonio's first news. Mr. T, Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris. Thanks to Charlie. For those were the days. He'll be back with us in studio later this morning around 8:20. Well, it is the big news story this morning. It happened yesterday, but people sounding off about it today. Former President Donald Trump's sit down on stage with 3 female journalists from the National Association of Black Journalists. He had some controversial things to say. We're getting reaction from you on the talkback feature of the free iHeart Radio app. Wow, the reaction, well, you'll hear for yourself coming right up. Mr. T, what do we have?
We're going to get both sides of the story in this set.
South Texas Willie here. Don't know if I would have went there about Kamala Harris. He's just trying to point out that her ethnicity seems to be changing whenever she needs it to her advantage. So he probably shouldn't have went there. It just gives him more fuel on the fire. South Texas Willie out.
South Texas Willie out.
Yeah, and somebody described it as a minefield, as landmines. I mean, the difference between going against Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, you can run into misogyny issues if you say something unusually, and you can run into racial issues, or at least a perception of or an interpretation by some people. And I think that's kind of what happened yesterday, certainly with race.
Yeah, and with Trump, Trump supporters, honestly, I think it's those unfiltered comments, whether people find them offensive or not, that fires them up. They know that he does not hold back when it comes to how he feels about the issues, even if they are controversial. So it remains to be seen if this does anything to his presidential campaign, but history will tell us that it won't.
All right, let's go up to Spring Branch.
Good morning. This is Joe from Spring Branch. I just want to remind everybody out there that Donald Trump is a 5-time draft-dodging coward. He's an adjudicated rapist. He's a convicted criminal. He is a lying racist insurrectionist. And he's an adjudicated fraudster against his state and his city. And this is the man leading the Republican Party. God bless America.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
I have a feeling Joe doesn't have a MAGA cap.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does not.
I'm guessing.
He
That's a
does
guess
not.
on my part.
Let's hear from the storyteller.
Good morning. It's the storyteller. I had a question that maybe Charity could answer. Why is black jobs a pejorative, but black university an accolade? Just wondering. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Interesting.
Say
Charity.
hello to Kemper for me.
Hello, Kemper.
Well, that is the second shout out to Kemper from one of our
very
listeners.
popular.
Very much so, for all the right reasons too.
Yes.
As far as black jobs, the thing is, there's not really any kind of racial requirement for employment, so it's kind of even hard to say that exists. I think Trump was trying to make the case that illegal immigration is taking jobs away from all Americans, but as you mentioned earlier, T, I think because in his mind he was at this convention for black journalists, he was talking to a specific audience, but it didn't come out right. But yes, we do point out, especially in the case of Howard University, where Kamala Harris attended, that is predominantly black, well-known black university.
Amen to that. All right, we got time for one more.
Good morning, WOAI First Newscast and crew. I think we should go back to we the people and listen for the policies, not what the race is. This is Tuesday. Have a good one. Stay cool.
Tuesday on a Thursday. I love
know.
it.
I like that too. And I think she's right, though. I think that's what these candidates need to stick to is the policies. What are you going to do for me?
Yeah. And it's a shame. And it's too bad that, race is still such an issue in America, yet it is. But again, you think about Donald Trump, and we've had some people giving him advice. Had he stuck to policies, we had somebody call earlier who was a Trump supporter, but he said, his mouth might get him in trouble and his mouth might lose him the election. That's according to the person who left the message. If he would just stick to policy and you go back to what Ronald Reagan used, all those years ago, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
That's the key
Do you
right
want
there.
the policies that I, espoused in the administration I had 4 years ago? That might be more effective for him, certainly in a setting like yesterday. We'll continue to bring you more on this throughout the morning. Right now, though, it is the top of the hour. Charity McCurdy with everything you need to know on this first day of August. WOAI News Time is 7 o'clock.
And we're back.
Woo! Travis K.
Travis is in there. Hey, Travis.
Let's see.
What up?
Trevin. Trevin's in here. Kay says, first time my son heard the Beastie Boys Fight for Your Right, he thought it was a new band. Had to break it to him. He wasn't born yet when that song came out. Funny. Yeah, Trevin says that disgraceful interview should have ended his campaign. Sadly, it won't matter to many of his supporters. But again, as Tim has said, it's those people in the middle. Your hardcore Trump people aren't going to be moved. It's 40-something%. Your hardcore Democrats and or anti-Trump people, 40-something% are not going to be moved. It's the people in the middle.
Yep.
And it's the people in the middle in swing states. People in the middle in Texas don't matter.
Yep.
Because Texas is going to vote red, barring the
something
craziest
else, yes.
thing in the world. Although the Ted Cruz, Colin Allred race looks close, according to some polls.
It's heating up.
All of a sudden.
Okay.
So I mean, you got to want, and you heard John Decker mention in major cities like Philadelphia.
That could hurt him a lot.
Pennsylvania being a swing state, a significant African American
This
vote.
blows me away that you can see this guy crawling on the roof before the attempt to shoot. Watch, look, there he is. Nobody sees that?
Yeah. And maybe though,
they thought he was
yeah, you're going, all right, Secret Service has it covered up. I mean, maybe.
See, that's where the problem came from, though, man. Is that, Secret Service doesn't want anything to do with the local people. Local people don't want anything to do with the Secret Service, and yet they drop the ball all the way around.
And that's a victim's video. That was someone who was shot.
Yep.
Wow. Stretch a little bit, but I'll stay.
Yeah. All right, wait till you hear this. This is, of course, Trump.
Yep.
Trump.
Happy joy.
Ram. 410 Whoa White.
Whoa White.
I still will never forget that.
In Breaking Bad, was his name Walter White?
Walter White.
We should just change that in honor of Walter White.
Although there's a pretty cool bar on WW White called the Shady Lady.
Shady Lady.
It's actually pretty cool, man. And it's not what you would think. It's a pretty nice little place, man. They just added a food truck that comes in and sells barbecue, and they actually sold out the first night they were there.
Are you suggesting that I thought the Shady Lady was a strip joint?
Yeah,
okay.
I did. I don't go to bars, but I've been in that one in the daytime. It is a great one.
Maybe chopped liver.
They have bands. They usually do small bands like, little duets and stuff. They don't do like full bands, but yeah, every now and then they'll have a country band in there.
Do an acoustic set.
Yep.
Have drummer Barry Davis sit that one out.
There you go. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little place, man. There's another one that, I don't think it's open anymore, but there's another one on Fair Avenue that used to be called The Other Woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to The Other Woman. See, I always thought we should name one like The Shed, or there's a one on 6th Street in Austin called The Library.
That's funny.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. Mom, I was at the library all night.
The evening at the library.
Yeah, I was there for a... And we're back.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah,
Who is EN? Everybody's saying hello to EN. Who is EN?
EN.
Oh, the EN is EN. EN said morning, and then Sikapala and Kay said good morning, EN. So good morning, EN.
Is it EN or EN?
Or are you with the Express News?
Oh, yeah. Are you? Are you? You know, Kay, my daughter loves The Doors, the band The Doors.
Good for your daughter. You raised her
And
well.
she did not know that, long story short, she didn't know. She thought they were still around. And I had to explain to her until we're talking when she was a little girl.
That's a little funky.
She went off to college and she knew more about The Doors than most people. And I told her, you want to impress some guys at a party or something? Ask them who plays bass for the Doors. And she goes, okay, who plays bass? I said, nobody.
Yeah.
I said, they use a session musician sometimes on albums, but they do not have a bassist.
Very
That's where the Hammond organ comes from. And
Very
so
cool.
she would blow some guys away with that, man.
The other woman was a nice bar. I knew the bartender, Rocky.
There you go, Tim.
Charlie Parker is in the building, everybody.
There you go, Tim.
Charlie is here at 7:06.
Why? You got an hour and 14 minutes before he comes on. You know Dr. Mitchell Shinecup.
Hey, man. Dr. Mitchell Shinecup.
You know him.
He rocks.
Does he roll, though? Wait till you freaking hear this. Thank you, Kay.
I would agree with that. If I had kids, they would be Doors and Beatles fans and Rolling Stones fans.
And I used to have my daughters, I'd pick them up from school, and they'd be in the back seat, and they were my backup singers, and they know every Jimmy Buffett song ever written.
Yeah.
And still to this day, they know every Jimmy Buffett song, because I was in a Buffett, period at that time.
Driving in today, I was channel surfing on Sirius. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Alan Jackson and Jimmy Buffett together. Yeah, I have no kids, so JD Vance is not proud of me. So my vote should count.
It should.
0.4%.
It should.
So I have no stake in America's future. Woo! So how much, how long is, wait till you hear this?
A minute and 40 something. Okay. Minute 34. I had to cut it down because he didn't end it right.
And so no Opelka prep. So we're
no
just gonna,
Opelka prep. We can just
fine.
ask him about anything we want to ask him
much
about.
to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yep.
That'll actually be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just riff it.
I think he'll have a lot to say about
Dahlia's workers alleging mistreatment.
I've
Olin
heard
Silhouette.
I've heard that, though, that they are threatened with losing their jobs and all that if they said anything. And it was, they were being really, really crappy to him. Stand by, Chris.
Yeah. San Antonio's first news, a big 7 o'clock hour is upon us on this first day of August. Coming up at 7:20, Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. His very unique take on the morning's big stories. We always look forward to that, and so many of you do as well. 7:40, national correspondent Rory O'Neill. It's the big story of the day. Former President Donald Trump's appearance in Chicago at the National Association of Black Journalists. It was to be a 1-hour sit down, cut short after 35 minutes by his handlers and his staff. Speaking of that, we'll listen to more of it coming right up at 7:10, just about a minute away in a segment we call Wait Till You Hear This. But first, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow. Highs in the upper 90s both days, but it will feel hotter than that. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Highs in forecast at 100, 101. It is 79 degrees at the Pearl downtown, 79 at Fort Sam Houston, 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 7:10.
San Antonio's first news every weekday morning at this time. We span the globe to bring you the constant variety of audio in a segment we call Wait Till You Hear This. And the point on the globe where the audio took place yesterday, the room where it happened, was in Chicago, Illinois. It was a sit down with the National Association of Black Journalists. Things got very contentious with one of the three panelists, ABC's Rachel Scott. Also on that panel, interestingly, Harris Faulkner of Fox News. And Donald Trump, while sitting there, had some very nice things to say about Harris Faulkner. We're reacting to it this morning. We're getting major reaction from you on the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. And Mr. T, let's listen in a little bit to yesterday's sit down in Chicago.
Here it is. I say that. Here it is. For some reason, it doesn't want to do it today.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm serious. It's just sitting here all hosed up.
Studios of the future. We've been bringing you the audio all morning long. And while we work on that, Charity, it is amazing.
All right, I got it fixed.
Okay, here we go.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
Give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I
believe
think,
that
I think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I
Republicans
really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some.
Former President Donald Trump characterizing the questions of ABC's Rachel Scott as a nasty tone. He, as you could tell, Charity, very, very contentious. And of course, part of the controversy this morning is Donald Trump's comments that Kamala Harris, quote, she happened to turn Black and, quote, became a Black person.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that that's what the former president decided to say. I think in his mind, he thought, okay, I am here at this National Association of Black Journalists convention. Let me speak to my audience directly in terms of talking about Black jobs. But in regard to Harris's racial identity, I didn't personally know that there were even questions about her racial identity prior to this. I mean, knowing that she attended Howard University, that was never in my mind, but I guess in certain circles there were questions about this, and that's what the former president is known for. It's unfiltered comments, whether it ends up creating controversy or not. Those that are loyal to the president, that's what they expect of him, and they will likely forgive him for this.
I think what might have hurt him also is when he said she turned Black. I mean, that right there is not a good way to phrase anything.
Yeah.
And you know, I agree with some of the talkbacks that we've had this morning. If we just stuck to the policies and talked about what he could do good for us coming up in the next 4 years, that'd be better.
Yeah, and I agree with one of our talkbacks earlier this morning who was a Trump supporter. He said it's a minefield out there that Donald Trump is navigating, and you didn't have this when Joe Biden was your opponent. You do have it now with Kamala Harris. If you're not careful, you could say something about her being a woman that can be viewed very negatively. If you're saying something sarcastic or flippant, and often Trump is sarcastic and flippant, it's his brand, and it's his brand to attack opponents. And then certainly the race issue, and here we're seeing how the race issue could get him in trouble. And the key is, as Mr. T pointed out earlier this morning, it's those people in the middle. Trump supporters are fine. They're not going anywhere. You're never Trumpers, and your Democrats are never coming over to Trump. It's the people in the middle, especially in the swing states, that will decide this election. Does this matter to them? And that's part of what we're talking about with you this morning. We'll talk about it with Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. He joins us next. WOAI News Time 716.
And we're back.
Hey, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we can do talk back again at 50. We're good.
Okay.
Pay attention, EJ.
Some of the comments here, very interesting. Eddie Lozano says, does he not understand that you can be Indian and black at the same time?
Exactly.
Now, EN, citing what a lot of people are citing, says it's not unfortunate. It's true. There is a video of her on a cooking show
with
cooking Indian food and calling herself Indian. The question is, what do we mean when we say black? Connie asks EN, do you like to be considered for a job because of your skills or your race? Sikapalin, maybe Trump was calling out Kamala on identity politics, saying she was identifying as being black when it was convenient, but really all politicians play to the room. That's true.
That
as
is
well.
true.
Yep.
That is true. But see, I can't.
Okay,
I can't
Sherry's
talk
asking
about being black because I've never been black, so I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, sir?
No.
Yes. I have it. It's in there. You already have that? It's in there. Those were the days. Yeah. You want me to play the highlight and you do the Olympic thing? Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, but I've got it. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to understand. You know what I mean?
But again, and
I know.
We saw this coming, and we talked as soon as we knew it was Kamala Harris. Because Trump is such a loose cannon,
and
you say something
off his cuff too much.
Anything
man.
that can be considered misogyny or racial. And here we go with 96 days to go before the election. And I think there'll be more of this. The question is, will it hurt him? History would suggest it might not, or it probably won't, based on previous moments.
I don't know, man. Are people getting tired of it?
Yeah.
You know, are they getting tired of accepting things like this?
Yeah. Yeah, Eddie, I think Trump supporters are going to go, that woman was rude and ugly to him. Talking about ABC's Rachel Scott.
Yep. Stand by, Chris.
Okay.
Just got to throw it to her, right?
Yeah. Mention Opelka and throw.
Yep.
Coming right up, Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. But first, Charity, what stories are you tracking?
Donald Trump clashed with journalists at the National Association of Black Journalists convention in Chicago. The alleged mastermind behind the 9/11 terror attacks is avoiding the death penalty, and remembrance events conclude today for Houston Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. We'll have the latest coming up. Right now, traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow, both days. Highs in the upper 90s, but it will feel hotter than that. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Highs 100 or 101, but it will feel hotter. 79 degrees in Leon Valley, 79 at Randolph Air Force Base, and 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 7:21.
San Antonio's first news. It is time to check in with Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. He's brought to us by Randy Adams Incorporated. And Mike, we are getting a lot of reaction from our listeners this morning on former President Donald Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists. Your take on what happened in Chicago yesterday?
Well, first of all, you have to wonder, was July 31st the beginning or the end of the 2024 presidential campaign? And if you think it was the end, for who? Because that was epic. This was a pivot point yesterday, what we witnessed in Chicago. And a few things to remember. Donald Trump was invited based on the premise that he would be sitting for a 1-hour interview, and so would his opponent. Now, neither of those were true. There was a technical screw up. They couldn't get their microphones working, so Trump was delayed 35 minutes. And he had to catch his own plane to get to his own rally. So his people cut the interview on stage short by 30 minutes. And now he's being accused of running away. Not true. And Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, neither showed up for that. And Kamala was saying, well, I'll zoom in. And they went, great. And Trump said, hold on a second. You told me I couldn't zoom. So he showed up. He did the work. And I give him props for that. I also think he addressed an issue that's been hanging out there for a long time better than anybody in the mainstream media has ever been able to do so. So I give him big props for this, and I think it's not going to hurt him at all with his base, and it's going to have a conversation in the middle, which is where this is going to win. So the answer is we'll see if this hurts him, but I will venture a guess that I think this is ultimately going to help him.
So, Mike, do you think Trump or J.D. Vance will be forced to revisit this issue moving forward on the campaign trail?
Only endlessly, Charity. Every time you meet with a left-leaning outlet, they're going to bring it up. And the question and how it's phrased is going to be what people have to watch. Byron Donalds was already out on the campaign trail last night. He was on with Larry Kudlow addressing it, and he had some pretty clear statements. I think that's a good move for the Trump campaign to send out Byron to address it. Tom Cotton, Senator Tom Cotton, was on CNN basically ripping the idea apart. And you have to remember, Joe Biden was given a free pass when he asked a black reporter, should you take a drug test? When he was asked about taking a cognitive test. So, you can't make any more racially stereotypical statements like that, but he got no pushback at all. So it is definitely an example of the media being very one-sided here.
Do you think it was where he was at the National Association of Black Journalists where he came up with, they're taking black jobs away from people, and maybe that was just in his mind and that's how it came out?
No,
I
don't think so. And to that event, to address that event, just the fact that we are segregating journalists and holding big meetings shows that we are not coming together. We don't have. Can you imagine the outcry if, hey, we're having a meeting of the white journalists or the one-legged Native American lesbian journalist. That's where this is going. And we need to stop the separations and begin the congealing once again.
And from the get-go, from question number one, Mike, ABC's Rachel Scott, very aggressive, very contentious. Donald Trump called her out. He said essentially, you're being very ugly, very rude. He slammed ABC as fake news. What did you think of Rachel Scott's performance as an interviewer?
Well, if you're going to be an attack dog interviewer, she did a great job. But if you're going to invite someone, a former president, possible future president, a current candidate, into your house, you don't open up by saying, "When did you stop beating your wife?" Which is basically what she did. I thought it was not a friendly environment, and I give Trump props back and kind of wait. Watch his hands if you go back and watch the video. Watch Donald Trump's hands. He's kind of tapping his hands together, trying to put together, okay, where am I going to go with this? And then the other question, if I can ask you guys a question.
Sure.
Did Donald Trump grab her water bottle and screw the top on really tight?
It didn't seem like that, didn't it?
There is a video where a lot of people are pointing that out. It's almost like, "I'll show you, lady. You're never going to get this top off."
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that video and check it again. You can get more Mike Opelka from his Pure Opelka podcast. Another episode drops this morning. You don't want to miss it. Get it wherever you get your podcast. We recommend the free iHeartRadio app. Mike is brought to us by Randy Adams Incorporated. More of the fallout from former President Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday. We'll talk about it with national correspondent Rory O'Neill at 740, WOAI News Time 726. Well, let's tell them Charity's coming. Charity's coming up. We got to run out and do some technical things. But Charity with the news, and then we'll be with you on the other side.
7:31 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Kamala Harris responds to Trump's comments about her racial identity and a plea deal for the 9/11 masterminds. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your Weather Channel forecast for this Thursday, partly cloudy with highs in the upper 90s. Tonight's low in the upper 70s. Right now, we're at 78 degrees. Well, former President Trump appeared before the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday, which turned remarkably contentious. Fox's Brian Yinnis has more.
Former President Trump under fire for suggesting Vice President Kamala Harris only started identifying as black recently for political gain. Trump was then asked if he believed Harris was a DEI or diversity hire.
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty.
The comments coming during a contentious interview with black journalists at the National Association of Black Journalists convention in Chicago. The sparring started right out of the gate at the first question. Trump put on the defensive.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln.
The former president seemingly irritated, noting his opponent Harris did not show up to the convention.
Speaking to a historically black sorority in Houston, Harris reacted to Trump's comments.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
Harris is the nation's first black, first South Asian, and first female vice president. Meantime, at that same convention, Trump said he would absolutely pardon January 6 rioters if reelected. He said the rioters were convicted by a very tough system, and he would pardon them if they're innocent. Over 1,400 people have been charged in connection to the riot at the Capitol, and hundreds of cases are still pending. And Trump is set to meet with the FBI to discuss the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania last month.
Federal agents want to get a victim statement to aid in their investigation of the attempt on the former president's life. Thomas Matthew Crooks fired several shots at the rally before he was killed. One of the bullets, or fragments of it, struck former President Trump on his ear. 3 rally attendees were also hit. 1 was killed, 2 were critically wounded. Agents' questions will only be about the events of that day at the rally and will likely be limited to things such as what he saw, how he felt, and the response by law enforcement at the scene. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And VP Kamala Harris wraps up her 2-day trip to Houston, delivering the eulogy for Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Among Lee's legislative accomplishments, the Juneteenth national holiday and renewal of the Violence Against Women Act.
In a statement, Vice President Harris referred to Representative Sheila Jackson Lee as a tenacious advocate for justice. Today's celebration of life wraps up over a week of memorials, including bipartisan love from her colleagues in Congress.
She was a champion of so many issues, from criminal justice to voting rights to civil rights.
Obsessed with taking care of people and changing the world.
Never has our committee had a harder working, more dedicated member. May God rest her soul.
The Congresswoman died serving her 14th term in office. She had pancreatic cancer. In Austin, Chris Fox, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
And And we are following breaking news as Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and American Paul Whelan have been released by Russia in a prisoner swap with U.S. and other countries. Gershkovich was sentenced to 16 years in prison by Russia after being found guilty of espionage. The Wall Street Journal and the U.S. government have said he was wrongfully imprisoned. Whelan has been detained since 2018 on an espionage charge. Well, 3 suspects accused of being the masterminds behind the 9/11 attacks have struck a plea deal with prosecutors. Here's Fox's Chanley Painter.
The Department of Defense has reached such agreements with 3 of the 5 9/11 terrorist suspects, which means the alleged mastermind and 2 of his accomplices responsible for murdering nearly 3,000 people in the worst terror attack on U.S. soil will now escape the death penalty. In a letter to the victims' families obtained by the New York Post, prosecutors explain, in exchange for the removal of the death penalty as a possible punishment, these 3 accused have agreed to plead guilty to all the charged offenses, including the murder of the 2,976 people listed in the charge sheet.
House Speaker Mike Johnson called the plea deal a slap in the face to those who died in the attacks. It is 7:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute, but first, a check of your money in the world of business. Ed Corey is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's First News, Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, Tim Merriman. I'm Chris Duell with the breaking news that Charity McCurdy just reported. It is being called the largest multi-country prisoner swap since the Cold War. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan among the prisoners being swapped and in their cases released from Russia. Let's talk about that and the other big story today. Former President Donald Trump's appearance yesterday at the National Association of Black Journalists with national correspondent Rory O'Neill. And Rory, first to the big breaking story, that prisoner swap. So wonderful now to see finally Gershkovich and Paul Whelan being released from Russia.
Yeah, keep in mind, Paul Whelan had been held, I think, since 2018, convicted in 2020 of spying on behalf of the CIA, sentenced to 16 years in prison. So that has been a long slog for the Whelan family. Earlier this month, I guess now it's August 1st. So last month, Gershkovich was found guilty on similar spying charges, also sentenced to 16 years in prison. Our State Department has said that both men were wrongfully detained, that these trumped up political charges against the pair who are being held as political prisoners. Now, this is part of a much larger hostage swap, as you had mentioned. We haven't seen all the names of who we're turning over to Russia and what other countries are involved. But this is a big, complicated maneuver that's all unfolding as we speak.
And do we know the condition of Gershkovich and Whelan, considering the harsh conditions they've been in?
Not yet. We know that Gershkovich was seen in the trial. I'm using air quotes, in that trial that he had last month, and he looked pretty good. Whelan does pop up from time to time and looked okay. I will say that Gershkovich is only 32 years old, and when you take a look at him, he looks a good 10 years older than that, if not more so. So it has not been an easy time for him, to be sure.
All right, we'll keep our eyes on this story as more details come up. Let's talk about Donald Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday, causing a lot of controversy. What do you think the biggest thing that he said caused the most controversy?
Well, he didn't really give a full-throated voice of support for his VP, J.D. Vance. Someone said, or was asked, was J.D. Vance ready to, on day one to, take over the job if necessary? And it seems that the former president seemed to have faltered on that. Although I will say, he did also say that there was bad audio in the room, and the question was from the other side of the room. So it's possible he didn't quite get the question. But it didn't sound like a full-throated endorsement of J.D. Vance.
And Rory, our listeners been reacting very passionately on both sides to Trump's appearance in Chicago yesterday. And we all believe, your Trump supporters are pretty much locked in, whatever you give the percentage, 40-something%. On the other side, 40-something% are going Democrat or never Trumpers. It's those voters in the middle, especially in the swing states, that will decide this election. How do you think independent voters and swing state voters who have yet to figure out who they're going to vote for, how do you think they would react to a performance like yesterday in Chicago?
I think it's going to be minimal. Look, if you're talking to we've seen Donald Trump have much greater strength among Latino voters and Black voters as well. However, now that we've changed the ticket and the Democrats are likely to nominate a mixed race woman, that's probably going to be more of a draw than what Donald Trump would have swung over to his side. So I don't think that per se the events of yesterday are really going to swing many votes when compared to the fact that an Indian woman who was also got African heritage, now that she's going to be the Democratic nominee, I think that's much more powerful than a couple comments on a stage in Chicago.
And Rory, as far as Harris's reaction, she seemed to shrug it off, calling it the same old show. But you got to wonder if Trump's comments will wind up in one of her campaign ads.
Oh, they probably will. Same old show. And she said that, we all deserve better from our potentially elected leaders. So she did acknowledge it, but tried to pivot pretty quickly. We'll see if this becomes a bigger theme, as the Trump campaign is clearly struggling with trying to find a way to adjust their campaign strategy away from Joe Biden, now towards Kamala Harris. What's the messaging going to be? I think that's where they're still trying to find what their path forward will be between now and November.
Our thanks to national correspondent Rory O'Neill. And for people just tuning in, we will reset the big breaking story of the morning. Russia releasing Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan as part of a major prisoner swap with the U.S. and other countries. We'll bring you more on that as we get the developments in. WOAI News Time 746. Coming up, we'll hear instant reaction from national security military analyst Rebecca Grant on this major prisoner swap, which reportedly will result in Russia releasing Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan. Charity McCurdy, I know that's one of the big stories you are covering as we roll forward this morning.
That's right. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan will be released by Russia in a prisoner swap with the U.S. and other countries. In an interview at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention, Donald Trump says Kamala Harris was always of Indian heritage and later happened to turn black. And a civil trial continues in connection with the lawsuit against the parents of the accused Santa Fe high school shooter. We'll have the very latest coming up. Right now, traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow. Highs in the upper 90s both days, but it will feel hotter. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Highs 100, 101, and yes, it will feel hotter. 79 degrees in New Braunfels, 79 in Alamo Heights, 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOEI News Time, 7:52.
San Antonio's First News, as Charity is reporting a major breaking news story this morning. Russia is releasing Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan as part of a major prisoner swap, according to sources. Let's listen in right now on Fox News. National security military analyst Rebecca Grant is detailing how this prisoner swap can affect the presidential election calendar.
Well, it is hard to say, but I guarantee you this, the Russians will get their propaganda going and make the most of it. So if whatever their intentions are, if they can use this prisoner swap to continue their influence operations, they will do it. And of course, this comes at a time when Putin is also making big threats about what he'll do when the F-16s get to Ukraine, when U.S. weapons can be used at longer range in Ukraine, all that, the nuclear threats, everything that goes on the whole time, this is going to feed into that somewhat. So if he can twist this to use against us, he'll find a way to do it.
That is national security military analyst Rebecca Grant. And Charity, you've broken this story, a huge, huge story. And the first reaction I have, just thankful that Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan are finally being released.
Yes. And, I think of Marine veteran Paul Whelan and what he's been through. I remember when Brittany Griner was released 2 years ago, how Whelan said that he felt abandoned by the U.S. after he was left out of that earlier prisoner swap that involved Brittany Griner. But yeah, a long time coming. Hopefully they are in good health. But it's good to finally have them back home. There was been speculation that a prisoner swap was going to happen, but it's so nice. And we're relieved to know that it's come to fruition. But again, what does this mean? That means Russian spies are now being released from U.S. prisons as well as other countries that are involved in this exchange, like in Germany and Belarus as well.
Yeah, and we don't know the amount of prisoners that are being exchanged for these two American prisoners yet. But like Charity said, it's just a relief, I imagine, for not only for him, but for his family and for all Americans.
Yeah, while we don't know the amount, ABC News is calling this the largest multi-country prisoner swap since the Cold War, which is really, really big. And Charity and Mr. T, we can't help but look at this as well. First of all, thank God these Americans are being released. But you still have to kind of look at this it was part of the story through the lens of the 2024 election. And you would think that this is something that Vice President Kamala Harris, along with President Joe Biden, are going to claim victory for. But as you mentioned, Charity, Paul Whelan felt abandoned when Brittany Griner was released. You got to wonder when he can get back on American soil and speak freely what he is going to have to say about an administration which a year ago he felt had abandoned him just to get Brittany Griner home quicker.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be documentaries like what we saw with Brittany Griner telling his side of the story. But for Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, this is huge that he is able to come home, considering he had been basically, in Russian custody for as long as he has. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison. So there was a lot of doubts about whether he was going to be able to come home and actually be able to live through the harsh conditions that are in Russian prisons.
Yeah, and you mentioned harsh conditions in Russian prisons, and just thank God. I wonder. Now, I've read also that this could happen soon. They could be back in the United States or on American soil as soon as today.
My goodness,
which would be really real quick turnaround.
It would be wonderful, and we can't even imagine, Charity and Mr. T, just the hardship, the suffering, almost certainly the abuse that Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan have gone through. Thank God they're headed home based on all reports at this hour.
Amazing. And Gershkovich has been in Russian detention for 491 days. That's a long time.
My God. All right. Coming up, we are getting amazing reaction from you on our Talkback feature about former President Donald Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday. We'll get you those. Charlie Parker, Uncle Charlie, joins us at 8:20. Huge 8 o'clock hour coming at you. WOAI News Time, 7:57.
8 o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, the U.S. and Russia make a major prisoner swap, and Donald Trump questions Kamala Harris's racial identity. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your Weather Channel forecast for this Thursday: partly cloudy with a high near 98. Tonight's low in the upper 70s. Get a move on. It is 78 degrees. And we are following breaking news as high-profile American prisoners of Russia are on their way home. Here's Fox's Jonathan Savage.
Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan are understood to have been released by Russia. Both were convicted of espionage charges they and the U.S. government strongly denied. Now, a large-scale prisoner swap is underway. Details are scarce, and neither government is commenting on the record. But negotiations on this deal have been going on for some time. Earlier this year, Russian President Vladimir Putin hinted he hoped Germany would release a Russian who murdered a Chechen separatist in a public park. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
As our Decision 2024 coverage continues, while participating in a Q&A with the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago, former President Trump raised eyebrows with his comments about Vice President Kamala Harris's ethnic background.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Speaking to a historically black sorority in Houston, Harris reacted to Trump's comments.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
Harris is Indian American and African American and attended Howard University, a historically black university. Meantime, Trump returned to the campaign trail in Pennsylvania yesterday for the first time since the attempt on his life. Here's Fox's Kristen Goodwin.
Former President Trump touting his administration's border policies.
We ended catch and release. We stopped asylum, fraud, coal. We got remain in Mexico. Remember that one?
Telling a Harrisburg crowd.
Also, drugs were way down. Human trafficking was way down. It's human trafficking in women mostly.
Calling presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris an extreme liberal who inherited the strongest border.
Immediately turned it into the worst border nightmare in the history of the world.
Saying she wants a war on American energy and bashing her push for stricter gun control. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Well, no Democrat has won statewide office in Texas since 1994, but we've seen a lot of Kamala Harris lately. While it may not make a difference in the presidential vote in Texas, University of Houston political science professor Brandon Rottinghouse says it could impact down ballot races.
This is a kind of soft attention that can happen as a result of other things, but that may have an effect in terms of the Democrats' bottom line.
Rottinghouse says the voting picture in Texas is gradually changing with demographics, but Democrats still have a lot of work to do to gain more traction. Well, after top Hamas political leader was assassinated in Iran, Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke on how the assassination would affect ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas during a visit to Mongolia.
It all starts with a ceasefire. And to get there, it also first requires all parties to stop taking any escalatory actions. It also requires them to find reasons to come to an agreement, not to look for reasons to delay or say no.
The assassination came just hours after Israel targeted a top Hezbollah commander in Lebanon, but Israel has not claimed responsibility for the Iran strike. Well, Texas Department of Corrections is in federal court over a lack of air conditioning in state prisons.
A federal lawsuit first brought against Texas by a former mortician and convicted murderer Bernie Tiede, the subject of the Richard Linklater film Bernie, alleges that TDC is inflicting cruel and unusual punishment on inmates with little or no air conditioning as temps reach 125 in some units. Plaintiffs want Judge Robert Pittman to order TDCJ to keep prison temps between 65 and 85, as is required for county jails in Texas. Testimony began on Tuesday, with the trial expected to wrap up tomorrow. Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
A civil trial is now underway in connection with the lawsuit against the parents of the accused Santa Fe High School shooter. In opening arguments, the lead plaintiff attorney Clint McGuire said the parents should be held responsible for what their son did.
Parents of a depressed child should safely store their guns. If they don't, and their child commits a school shooting with them, the parents share in the responsibility for those harms and losses.
The shooter was found incompetent to stand trial for the 2018 shooting that killed 8 students and 2 teachers. Relatives of the victims are suing the parents, claiming they knew their son had mental problems and didn't do enough to prevent the shooting. It is 8:06, news at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's first news with this huge breaking story. Russia will release Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan as part of a major prisoner swap with multiple countries. Now, we've got White House correspondent John Decker, who will join us on this at 8:40. Charlie Parker is in studio, and in a moment, we'll hear from national security military analyst Rebecca Grant on this big breaking story. But first, let's get you caught up on headlines. Let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today. Highs in the upper 90s. 78 right now. WOAI News Time, 8:10.
San Antonio's First News. Charlie Parker in studio, Mr. T. Tim Merriman, Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. Huge breaking story. Russia releasing Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan as part of a major multi-country prisoner swap. Let's hear reaction from national security military analyst Rebecca Grant.
Well, first of all, I am delighted that Evan and Paul and any other Americans may be coming home. It's high time. But I tell you, there's some people here that Putin really, really wanted back. We see who it is, but particularly if it's individuals like the awful Vadim Krasikov, who was the FSB colonel. And then let me note some others that we're hearing that may go back are some cryptocurrency traders and some high-tech arms smugglers. Those individuals, our Justice Department has pursued and convicted a few of them. But they're the ones that are helping Russia maintain that illegal sanctions evading and getting some more of that high-tech stuff so they can continue their war in Ukraine. So very interesting to see who Russia will be bringing home.
So, Charity, as you discussed earlier, the good news is Gershkovich and Whelan coming home, but the bad news is some very bad guys probably going to be released back to Russia.
Yeah, we don't know how many, but it reportedly involves at least 2 Russian spies who posed as Argentinian citizens and were arrested in Slovenia. Other countries reportedly involved in the exchange include Germany and Belarus. But again, we could see Gershkovich and Whelan on U.S. soil as soon as today. So that's really exciting. But again, a lot of questions about their treatment while in Russian prison and their current health.
And how long it took. It might have something to do with what the Russians want in exchange is why it's taken so long.
Yeah, more on this with White House correspondent John Decker at 8:40. A huge breaking news story. Charlie Parker in studio. Lots to talk about with Charlie coming right up. WOAI News Time 8:12. Charlie Parker is in studio. He is in Olympics gear. He is into it. We'll hear what's on his Olympic radar. But Charity McCurdy, you are covering a major breaking news story. Tell us about what you're tracking.
A Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and American Paul Whelan will be released by Russia in a prisoner swap with the U.S. and other countries. Vice President Kamala Harris says Americans deserve better after Donald Trump raised doubts about her racial identity, and the push for AC in Texas prisons continues. Well, the very latest coming up right now, traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow. Highs in the upper 90s both days, but it will feel hotter. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Highs 100, 101. It is 79 degrees in Alamo Heights, 78 in Helotes, and 78 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 8:18.
San Antonio's first news in a moment, Charlie Parker, but programming note at 8:40, we'll get reaction from White House correspondent John Decker about this huge breaking story. Russia reportedly releasing Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan as part of a major prisoner swap. We will dive right back into that at the bottom of the hour with Charity and at 8:40 with White House correspondent John Decker. Charlie Parker, if you're watching us on YouTube, you know he is in Paris Olympics gear, and nobody that I am aware of watches more Olympics than Charlie. You DVR everything.
I DVR everything. I have seen some or all of every event televised, CNBC, USA, NBC, and Peacock.
Yes.
Wow. I'm trying to set it. Give me the gold medal now for viewership. It's all mine. But speaking of gold medals, all hail Katie Ledecky.
This thing is messing up this morning.
25 meters left for Ledecky to make more history for the greatest female swimmer of all time.
She knows this is her 8th Olympic gold medal.
1,500 meter win yesterday. Not a world record, which she, by the way, holds, but an Olympic record. She is now tied with Jenny Thompson, Dana Torres, and Natalie Coughlin for most gold medals among women with 8, but she is the most decorated United States female athlete in history.
Wow. And she finished that race last night 10 seconds ahead of everybody else.
She was swimming the last 1,500 meters, by the way, is almost a mile. She was swimming the last 500 of the 1,500 meters, only 0.4 of a second slower.
That's amazing.
Than she was swimming her early laps. Absolutely. By the way, the 20 fastest times ever in the 1,500, all by Katie Ledecky.
Oh my God.
Yeah. As I mentioned, no world record, but an Olympic record. She now has a total of 12 medals, Olympic medals. And by the way, all of her medals, whether they're in the Olympics or World Championships, are all in the freestyle.
Yeah.
So that's her, that's her masterpiece. She does plan to swim again in LA in 2028. Wow. She'll be 31 then.
Wow.
Listen to these numbers. Try to process this. She has now in her career swum over 37 million meters. That's almost 25 miles, which is just short of the circumference of the Earth. 1/10 the distance to the moon. That's how much time she spends in the water.
Wild.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject of people in gold medals, this Léon Marchand of France.
Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing somewhere along the way in Olympic coverage over the years, there have been people swimming in medal races, more than one in the same day.
Okay. Yeah.
Marchand yesterday won the gold medal in the 200-meter butterfly, and then won the gold medal in the 200-meter breaststroke 2 hours later.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And by the way, his biggest fan is Michael Phelps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Michael Phelps loves him. Yes.
Yeah. Medal count. As we sit here this moment, the United States with a total of 31. France is next with 26. China 21. Great Britain 17 and Australia 16. Gold medals, China leading the way with 11. France and Japan both have 8. Australia has 7 gold. Great Britain and the United States are tied with 6. That's going to change because track and field begins today.
Yes, sir. That will change.
And runs through next Thursday. Now, as exciting as all that Olympic news is, here's the most important news I have of the day. You know what the night is?
Oh, I think I know where you're
Tonight is
going.
the National Football League
Yes.
Hall of Fame game.
Yes, sir.
7 o'clock, ESPN and ABC, Houston Texans, Chicago Bears, which means the Dallas Cowboys' first preseason game is in just 10 days.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes. That's going to be awesome.
The dark ages are coming to an end.
And we know that, it's not going to be.
It doesn't matter. It's football.
Yeah,
It's football.
We're so football starved that we'll.
Amen.
Yeah.
And Charlie, you say you've watched at least a little bit of everything.
Of every single thing that's been televised.
What do you think about the triathlon and not swimming in that polluted water until yesterday afternoon? And what if I understand
the sin?
Yeah, the sin. And from what I understand, the currents were causing these swimmers to ingest a lot of water. So I'm wondering if they're going to end up sick and suing the Olympics or Paris.
Well, they can't sue the Olympics. They're doing that on their own. They don't. Yeah, nobody's forcing them to get into the water.
But they said it was safe.
Huh?
They said it was safe.
Well, let's wait until somebody gets sick and then we'll worry about it.
Yeah.
Now, Charlie, did you hear about that Algerian boxer who's apparently a biological male who ended up winning a matchup against an Italian female fighter in just 46 seconds?
Not right.
Yeah, apparently that
What
Italian.
is she being fighting?
Yeah, exactly.
how's
That's
that
the
allowed?
controversy.
Did they know that going in?
Yes. And the female fighter, the Italian female fighter, was hit 2 times by this biological male. And then she just ended up throwing her
Yeah, she
helmet
just-
on the floor
yep.
and just said, this is unjust. I abandoned the fight.
She should have never fought
Yeah, I
him
would-
or
yeah.
her. What?
It should have never been allowed.
Whatever the
First of all, it
pronoun-
should have
Yeah.
never been allowed.
No.
Yeah.
Can't believe
Well,
that
I
goes
mean,
on.
we
in the
still have
Olympics.
that controversy all across this country.
Yes, we do.
In athletics.
Well, it's one thing if it's volleyball, if it's boxing,
Yeah.
a biological male pummeling a biological female just sounds even worse
Well,
to
it
me.
shouldn't even be broken down into, it's okay in this sport, but not in that. It shouldn't be allowed at all.
All right. Lots more coming up. John Decker at 8:40. Instant reaction to the big major story breaking this morning. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan reportedly released by Russia. Charity will have details on that coming up. WOAI News Time, 8:25.
8:30 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, the U.S. and Russia make a major prisoner swap, and Kamala Harris responds to Trump's comments about her racial identity. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your Weather Channel forecast for this Thursday, partly cloudy, a high in the upper 90s. Tonight's low in the upper 70s. Right now, 78 degrees. And we are following breaking news as the U.S. and Russia have agreed to a prisoner swap. Here's Fox's Mark Meredith with the latest.
A couple of names and a couple of big names. The Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, who was just sentenced in July to 16 years in prison. He had been accused of espionage. The U.S. as well as the Wall Street Journal had flatly denied that and said that he was simply being a political prisoner of the Russians. We are understanding now from White House officials that he is part of this prisoner swap, as well as the former Marine Paul Whelan, who had been arrested back in 2018 and convicted in 2020. These are two of the biggest names and the biggest targets that the U.S. have been trying to free from Russia now for several years. What we don't know at this point yet is what was included in the exchange. What were the Russians essentially getting to make such a high-profile swap?
The White House has not yet issued an official statement regarding details of the swap. Keep it here for the very latest. As our Decision 2024 coverage continues, former President Trump appeared before the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday, which turned remarkably contentious. Here's Fox's Brian Yennis.
Former President Trump under fire for suggesting Vice President Kamala Harris only started identifying as Black recently for political gain. Trump was then asked if he believed Harris was a DEI or diversity hire.
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty.
The comments coming during a contentious interview with Black journalists at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Chicago. The sparring started right out of the gate at the first question. Trump put on the defensive.
I have been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln.
The former president seemingly irritated, noting his opponent Harris did not show up to the convention.
And here's Kamala Harris's reaction while speaking in Houston yesterday.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
Harris is the nation's first Black, first South Asian, and first female vice president. Meantime, Harris wraps up her two-day trip to Houston, delivering the eulogy for Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
In a statement, Vice President Harris referred to Representative Sheila Jackson Lee as a tenacious advocate for justice. Today's celebration of life wraps up over a week of memorials, including bipartisan love from her colleagues in Congress.
She was a champion of so many issues, from criminal justice to voting rights to civil rights.
Obsessed with taking care of people and changing the world.
Never has our committee had a harder working, more dedicated member. May God rest her soul.
The Congresswoman died serving her 14th term in office. She had pancreatic cancer. In Austin, Chris Fox, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
The White House says too soon to say what the attacks in Lebanon and Iran could mean for a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby refused to confirm reports that Israel killed a political leader of Hamas in Iran. Kirby told reporters the Biden administration will continue efforts to secure a ceasefire deal that includes the release of hostages held by Hamas. Well, 3 suspects accused of being the masterminds behind the 9/11 attacks have struck a plea deal with prosecutors. Here's Fox's Chanley Painter.
The Department of Defense has reached such agreements with 3 of the 5 9/11 terrorist suspects, which means the alleged mastermind and 2 of his accomplices responsible for murdering nearly 3,000 people in the worst terror attack on U.S. soil will now escape the death penalty. In a letter to the victims' families obtained by the New York Post, prosecutors explain, in exchange for the removal of the death penalty as a possible punishment, these 3 accused have agreed to plead guilty to all the charged offenses, including the murder of the 2,976 people listed in the charge sheet.
House Speaker Mike Johnson called the plea deal a slap in the face to those who died in the 9/11 attacks. Earlier this week, Texas AG Ken Paxton announced a $1.4 billion settlement with Meta, the parent company of Facebook. Technology expert Ian Scher says the settlement was tied to a state lawsuit over how the company has been handling the private information of users.
The federal government hasn't done much about privacy concerns online. And so states are beginning to step up, using laws that were written around voice or facial or biometric data to force tech companies to change how they treat our information.
Scher says the settlement, which was the largest ever for a single state, may sound big, but it's relatively small for a company like Meta. He wonders if Texas might have been able to get more. Well, it's not your imagination. Texas is getting more crowded.
It seems like every week there's a new report showing that people from across the country are picking up and moving to Texas. Glenn Hammer, who heads the Texas Association of Business, says the numbers are mind-boggling.
From the time we started today to when we go to sleep, 1,000 new residents plus will call Texas their home.
A new report shows that over the last 3 years, 9 of the top 10 places for growth were here in Texas. At the top was the Dallas suburb of Salina. Its population grew by more than 143%. Hammer says to keep this trend, the state must invest in infrastructure. Michael Board, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
It is 8:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute, but first, a check of your money and the world of business. Ed Corey is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. Thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's first news, the huge breaking story that Charity McCurdy has been reporting on all morning since it broke. during this program. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, part of a number of Americans expected to be released by Russia as part of a large-scale prisoner swap. Now, the only reporter to ask about a possible prisoner exchange yesterday at the White House press briefing was White House correspondent and attorney John Decker. He joins us now, and we appreciate him joining us on such short notice. John, what did you know yesterday that led you to ask about this at the White House press briefing?
Well, I had a good source yesterday that told me that this deal was in the works. And in fact, later that same source sent me information about a plane that was being used that was the same type of plane, the same exact plane, I should say, that was used when Brittany Griner was involved in a prisoner exchange. And so that gave, further knowledge that this was likely going to happen. I had no idea that it was as large as it has now been reported. Approximately 30 individuals involved in this historic prisoner exchange with Russia. But so happy for Americans, Paul Whelan, Evan Gershkovich, wrongfully detained by Russia, falsely accused of spying, and both of them serving 16-year prison sentences. Now they are on their way home, back to freedom, and will soon be reunited with their families. So happy for those individuals.
Absolutely, John. And Whelan had previously said he felt abandoned by the U.S. when he was left out of that previous prisoner swap involving Brittany Griner 2 years ago. So it'll be really interesting to hear what he has to say once he's back on U.S. soil.
Oh, look, I can't speak to all the details involving this prisoner swap. We'll learn them certainly today from the State Department, from the White House, the extent to which they can release those details. But there's no one at the White House, there's no one at the State Department that ever did not think about Paul Whelan. And, I can understand why you would feel that way. You do feel abandoned. My God, you're in a prison cell in Russia. I think that the fact that he was released along with Evan Gershkovich of the Wall Street Journal gives you an indication that U.S. officials were thinking about him and doing all they could to secure his release and the release of Evan Gershkovich.
And John, you've been around the White House for quite some time now. What exactly goes into this? What are all the moving parts to get these things done?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts. There's what is done publicly and what is done behind closed doors. And, quite frankly, in this particular instance, Russia had the upper hand, in the sense that they knew how valuable our Americans were to get them back in the U.S. on U.S. soil. They knew that they had the edge, if you want to call it, in terms of a negotiation, and as a result, they could ask for a lot in terms of these negotiations. It's going to be questioned by some. Did the U.S. give up too much? But we're talking about Americans here wrongfully detained, and sometimes in negotiations, one side is the upper hand. In this case, Russia had the upper hand, and it's a message to any American: do not travel to Russia. Do not travel to this country, because you could potentially be used as a pawn in the same way that Paul Whelan and Evan Gershkovich were used as pawns in this instance.
And John, I can't help but looking at this as well through the lens of the 2024 election. I got to believe this will be viewed as a victory for President Joe Biden and his administration, and therefore for Vice President Kamala Harris. Do you think they'll use this as political capital in this election?
Well, to me, I always thought that this would be a potential October surprise for Donald Trump, in the sense that, October rolls around, these two Americans are still held in a Russian prison cell. We know that Donald Trump has a good relationship with Vladimir Putin. And what better way, to put your thumb on the scale if you're Vladimir Putin than saying, it's Donald Trump that led to the release of these two Americans. So, look, I'm sure it will be used by some as political capital. I don't know. I'm sure that, if that matters to some voters. But to me, I'm just pleased that these two Americans will soon be back home with their families.
We can't thank him enough for joining us on this huge breaking story. White House correspondent and attorney John Decker will continue to bring you the latest on the release of these Russian detainees back into American custody, back on American soil soon, where they belong. WOAI News Time, 8:45. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together, and lots of reaction coming in on the talkback feature on former President Donald Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists. We'll hear more from you coming right up. But first, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and American Paul Whelan are being released from Russia in a major prisoner swap. Donald Trump questions VP Kamala Harris's racial identity, and Kamala Harris will begin a U.S. tour with her new running mate next week. We'll have the latest coming up right now, traffic and weather together.
Partly cloudy, partly sunny today and tomorrow, both days. Highs in the upper 90s, but it will feel hotter than that. Saturday, lots of sunshine and hot. Highs 100, maybe 101. 78 degrees in New Braunfels, 79 in Leon Valley, and 77 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time 8:51.
San Antonio's first news, our thanks to Charlie Parker, joined us earlier in the hour with all kinds of Olympic updates, especially on Katie Ledecky. EJ Pacheco, Andrew Zimmel doing the heavy lifting today, flying the Millennium Falcon, running the YouTube broadcast, which is still ongoing. And throughout the morning, even before we got the breaking news on Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan being released in that prisoner swap from Russia, we were asking you about former President Donald Trump's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday in Chicago. Mr. T, we still got more left.
Oh, we've got a bunch. Here's Antonio.
Hello, guys. This is Antonio from San Antonio. Hope you all are doing great. My comment is that what happened last night with former President Trump, it was a reaction to an action. There was the body language from the interviewer. You can look at her face, her body language, even the blue dress. That was aggression. That was aggression. And of course, there had to be a reaction. She shouldn't be acting like
that.
Well, the blue dress.
Yeah.
Is he saying she was the devil with the blue dress on?
Blue dress.
Wow. He's referring to ABC's Rachel Scott, who
Yes.
started the interview. She was seated the closest of the three journalists to former President Trump. And she was going after him from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, with that initial handshake,
Yes.
it seemed like she was quick to pull her hand away.
Yeah, and when you start an interview like that, it never turns out well. It just normally, most times, it does not turn out well. Let's go up to Central Arkansas.
Hey, gang, this is Michael up in Central Arkansas. Let me preface this by saying I'm not the world's biggest Donald Trump fan, although I do want him to be president here in a little bit. But his downfall is going to be the fact that he can't control what he says, and things come out of his mouth that don't need to come out of his mouth. And he hurts people's feelings and he makes people mad. And eventually that's going to come back to bite him in the butt.
Wow. Interesting.
And we heard a couple of people say that. And I remember specifically a Trump supporter who said, you know, I want him to win, but he could lose this election for himself by the things he says, like this.
Yeah, and then in the past, you know, he's been able to get away with it and bounce back, but we're in such a critical moment of the presidential campaign, especially with all this attention and momentum behind Kamala Harris. I think he has to be extra careful.
I don't know if he knows how to be extra careful when it comes to him talking, because he's so used to just coming off the cuff on everything that sometimes this is just my opinion. Sometimes it comes out without him thinking about it. That's just the way I see it.
Well, and, you know, so far it's pretty much worked for him.
Yeah.
You know, except in 2020. And that was a very close election as well, however you view it. And, you know, so far, nothing. So many times people said, oh, that's going to do him in this time. And our analysts that we spoke with this morning said this might not have much of an effect at all. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. And I'm sure he's going to do more campaigning moving forward, along with JD Vance. So I'm sure there'll be more comments about this because I don't think this controversy will be going away anytime soon.
No, we are living in fascinating times. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, and that includes today. Charity's going to have everything you need to know about what we know about the prisoner swap that looks like it's going to bring Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan home, among others. That's coming right up. Then you'll have some Glenn Beck. We'll get his reaction to this. But right now, your Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
All right, everybody, have a great, great day.
Sleepy, Trevin, Kay, Jacob, David, anybody else who's in here, thanks for hanging out. Join us tomorrow at 5 a.m. Later.
See y'all later.